Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and where science drifts by like music on a late evening breeze. Tonight, we begin a new journey, one that imagines the universe not as an empty expanse of silence, but as something closer to an orchestra tuning its instruments behind a great cosmic curtain. The theme before us is the multiverse, vast, strange, and still uncertain. But instead of racing toward it with hard formulas or urgent debates, we will listen for its hidden harmonies, as if leaning close to catch a melody that is always playing but almost too soft to hear. Before you settle in, I'll gently remind you of something. If these quiet wanderings bring you calm or spark curiosity, you're welcome to like this video, perhaps subscribe, or even leave a comment telling me where you are listening from and what time it is where you are. It is always a delight to picture this small constellation of listeners spread across the globe, midnight in one home, dawn in another, evening tea somewhere else, all connected by a thread of shared curiosity. Now, let the lights dim a little, let the body soften, and let us step into the music of the cosmos together. You might think of the night around you as silent, but if you pause for long enough, silence itself begins to sing. The faint hum of a refrigerator, the distant buzz of streetlights, the gentle rhythm of your own breath. These are all small reminders that quiet is never empty. In the same way, the universe, vast as it is, may not be a void but a subtle composition, its notes carried not by violins or drums, but by the vibrations of matter, the oscillations of light, and the gravity that sways galaxies into their spirals. To imagine the universe as music is not only poetic, but, in a way, scientific. Patterns, ratios, and resonances have always guided our attempts to understand the world, and from ancient thinkers to modern physicists, the idea of harmony has remained a faithful companion. The ancient Greeks once spoke of the music of the spheres. They believed that each planet, as it moved across the sky, produced a tone too subtle for human ears, and that together these tones created a cosmic harmony. It was more metaphor than measurement, but it revealed something about the human instinct. We long to find rhythm in the heavens. Centuries later, Johannes Kepler revisited this idea and attempted to calculate the exact songs of the planets, imagining their orbits as notes in a celestial score. Today, while astronomers no longer think of planets literally playing music, the metaphor still feels right, because what we see across the universe is indeed filled with rhythm and vibration. Think of the light you see from a star. It may look like a single glow, but in truth it is a wave, oscillating countless times each second, carrying information across unimaginable distances. Think of atoms, the tiny building blocks inside you. Their electrons do not orbit like marbles circling a centre. They exist in standing waves, patterns of probability that are closer to vibrating strings than to little balls of matter. Even the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, bears the imprint of sound waves rippling through the newborn universe. In other words, from the smallest scales to the largest, the cosmos is filled with echoes and harmonies. But if this universe is already music, what then of the multiverse? That word can sound daunting, like a late-night thought experiment or a science fiction twist, but tonight we will approach it gently. Imagine a single violin playing in the dark. Beautiful, yes, but still alone. Now imagine a second violin joining in, then a cello, then a flute, each with its own tone. Soon, what was once solitary becomes an ensemble. That is one way to picture the multiverse. Instead of a lone universe playing its melody, there may be many, each with its own laws, constants, and rhythms, weaving together into a grander symphony. This idea is both daring and deeply uncertain. Scientists debate its reality. Philosophers weigh its implications, and storytellers imagine its possibilities. But for us tonight, the multiverse is less a problem to solve and more a horizon to listen toward. if it exists, it may not be silent separation but interconnected harmony. Perhaps each universe is an instrument, tuned slightly differently, some loud, some soft, some resonating faintly through the others. Perhaps the reason our universe is tuned in such a way that life can exist is not because it was chosen alone, but because we are part of a much larger orchestra where countless variations are possible. There is something soothing about this perspective. To think that we're not stranded in a single silent void, but nestled within a choir of realities, each playing its part. We cannot yet hear these other worlds, if they are there at all, but just as a child can sense the vibration of a deep drum without knowing where the sound comes from, perhaps our universe carries hints of these hidden harmonies in its very structure. The way particles behave, the delicate balance of forces, the faint ripples in cosmic light, all may be the notes of a larger score. As you listen now, perhaps lying down with eyes closed, feel how your own body joins this theme. Your heart keeps a rhythm, steady and faithful. Your breath rises and falls like a slow tide. Even your thoughts, drifting and returning, form patterns that echo larger ones. You are, in a sense, part of the orchestra already. The music of the cosmos does not happen far away. It plays through you, as surely as it plays through stars and galaxies. To recognize this is not to solve a mystery, but to feel at home in it. So let us begin our exploration softly. In the chapters ahead, we will travel from the echoes of the Big Bang to the speculative harmonies of multiple universes. We will imagine galaxies as choirs, quantum entanglement as duets, and cosmic cycles as repeating verses in an endless chant. Some of these ideas come from ancient philosophy, some from cutting-edge physics, and some from the gentle thread of imagination that binds them all. Together they may not answer every question, but they can give us a way to listen, to hear the universe not as cold silence, but as music unfolding quietly in the dark. And if, as we wander, your thoughts drift elsewhere, that is perfectly fine. The music of the cosmos does not demand attention. It welcomes you as you are. You can follow closely or simply let it wash over you like a lullaby. For now, know only this. You're about to step into a quiet symphony, where the stage is infinite and the audience includes every star. The first note has been struck softly, and the rest awaits. If you step outside on a calm night and hold very still, you may notice how the world begins to reveal its hidden background music. Crickets chirp with their steady rhythm, leaves rustle in uncertain breezes, and perhaps a distant train horn fades into the dark. None of these sounds is loud on its own, yet together they create a layered composition, an unseen orchestra playing for anyone willing to listen closely. The universe, though on a scale far greater, offers something similar. Its harmonies are not played on strings or horns, but on vibrations of light, matter, and gravity. They are mostly beyond our hearing, sometimes even beyond our instruments, but they suggest that what we call reality is less a collection of objects and more a performance in motion. For as long as people have watched the night sky, they have been tempted to imagine music hidden there. Pythagoras, more than 2,000 years ago, taught that numbers and harmony were not only human inventions but woven into the very cosmos. He believed that the planets traced paths through the heavens that produced musical intervals, a kind of divine chord too subtle for mortal ears. Later, Johannes Kepler, working with meticulous astronomical data, pursued the same dream. He attempted to calculate the exact songs of the planets, mapping their orbital speeds to harmonies, convinced that God had composed a celestial symphony. His math did not quite capture the physics, but his intuition, that the cosmos follows patterns like music, was not far from the truth. Modern science, though far more technical, still leans on these metaphors. When physicists study the earliest light of the universe, the cosmic microwave background, they find not a flat sheet of radiation, but ripples, peaks and troughs, like frozen echoes of sound. Imagine the newborn universe as a vast glowing drum, its surface trembling with waves. Those waves, captured in faint static that we still detect with satellites, are the score of creation's opening bars. They tell us about density, temperature, and motion at a time before galaxies had even formed, before stars had lit. The universe in its infancy sang. Closer to home, atoms also reveal the same theme. Electrons do not circle a nucleus the way planets circle a star. They exist in probability clouds shaped like standing waves. These waves can only take certain forms, certain harmonics, the way a guitar string can only vibrate in particular patterns. When an electron shifts from one pattern to another, it releases light of a specific colour, a quantum note. The colours of a flame, the glow of a neon sign, even the radiance of the sun, all are records of atomic instruments playing their discrete, precise notes. Even gravity, that quietest of forces, has its music. For centuries, Isaac Newton's equations described it as an invisible pull, like a steady bass line beneath the melody of motion. Then Einstein reimagined it as curved space-time, a fabric that bends and flexes, where mass shapes the stage itself. In his vision, a planet orbiting a star is not forced along by a string, but gliding through curves, following the rhythm set by the stage beneath its feet. And recently, with detectors like LIGO and Virgo, humanity has actually listened to the softest drumming of the cosmos, gravitational waves rippling across space-time. When two black holes spiral into each other, their collision sends vibrations across the universe like timpani struck in the far distance, arriving at our instruments as barely perceptible shifts. Those signals are not imagination, they are real music, though pitched far below any ear could hear. What does it mean to picture the universe as an orchestra? It means that instead of thinking of existence as a silent gallery of objects, we can imagine it as a score unfolding in time, where patterns matter more than isolated notes. A galaxy, spinning with billions of stars, is like a choir sustaining a chord, steady but complex. A single photon of light travelling across empty space is like a high, clear note played on a flute. A cluster of galaxies bending light with gravity becomes a deep harmony, chords overlapping. To bring this closer to everyday life, think about the ways harmony shows up around you. A kettle heating on the stove whistles only when the water and the metal resonate together. Air pushed through at just the right rate. A guitar played near a piano can make certain strings on the piano vibrate, even without being touched, because their frequencies match. In the same way, the universe is full of resonances, some subtle, some vast. They tie together particles and stars, ripples of sound and flashes of light, in ways we are only beginning to recognize. Of course, the metaphor of music should not mislead us. The universe does not literally hum with violins or percussion. What it offers are patterns, oscillations, symmetries, all of which resemble the structures of music because both are governed by ratios, timing, and resonance. When we say the universe has an unseen orchestra, we mean that hidden beneath silence is a language of vibration. Science translates it into equations, but the equations themselves are simply another way of noting down the score. As you lie here, perhaps with your eyes drifting closed, it might be pleasant to imagine yourself not as a spectator, but as part of this orchestra. Your heart keeps its steady drum beat. Your breath provides a gentle rhythm, in and out like a soft tide. The neurons in your brain fire in waves, creating patterns of thought that rise and fade like overlapping melodies. You are, in every sense, already within the music. The unseen orchestra of the universe does not play apart from you. It includes you. And this brings us to the thought that will guide us into the next part of our journey. If this universe alone holds such music, from atoms to galaxies, from sound waves in plasma to the drumming of black holes, what happens if there are others? If the multiverse is real, then our orchestra is only one section of a far grander ensemble. The next question becomes not whether the universe sings, but whether it is joined by other universes, each with its own tempo, its own tuning, its own voice in the cosmic choir. To imagine that is to imagine not just harmony, but symphony on a scale beyond our current imagination. So as you rest here, consider this quiet image. The night sky above you is not just blackness dotted with stars, but the cover of a concert hall, under which countless melodies might be unfolding. Some of them we hear, some of them we glimpse through faint signals, and others may forever remain out of reach. But even without full knowledge, we can close our eyes and feel the shape of the harmony. Like listening to music through a wall, the faintness is part of its beauty. We sense that something is there, vast and resonant, and we're invited to lean closer, not to strain, but to simply allow the sound to carry us further. Long before there were stars, before galaxies, before even the quiet swirls of atoms, the universe was a dense, glowing sea of particles and light. Imagine standing in a great hall where the walls themselves tremble, not with silence, but with the muffled thrum of drums played somewhere just out of sight. That is what the early universe must have felt like, though of course there were no ears to hear and no instruments to play. It was a universe filled with vibrations, rippling through the hot plasma that stretched everywhere. And those ripples have left behind traces so faint and delicate that it has taken us billions of years to learn how to notice them. Today we call that ancient glow the cosmic microwave background, often shortened to CMB. To picture it, imagine tuning an old radio and finding a patch of static, the sound of nothing in particular. Yet hidden inside that static is history, the faint signal of the first light that ever streamed freely through space. This light began its journey about 380,000 years after the Big Bang, when the universe cooled just enough for particles of matter to join into atoms. Before that, everything was too hot, too chaotic, with electrons scattered and light constantly trapped. But once the universe calmed slightly, photons broke free, travelling outward, carrying with them the frozen memory of that early time. For a long while, this glow was invisible to us. The sky looked dark except for stars and galaxies, and it was easy to assume the rest was empty. Then, in the middle of the 20th century, two engineers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, stumbled upon a strange signal while adjusting a radio antenna in New Jersey. No matter how they aimed it, no matter how carefully they cleaned away interference, even, as the story goes, after removing nesting pigeons, the signal remained. It was a faint hiss, steady and unyielding. What they had found, though, they did not know it at first, was the leftover light of creation itself filling every corner of the sky, proof that the universe had once been far hotter, far denser, and full of resonant energy. The cosmic microwave background is not just a glow, it is patterned, like a canvas painted in subtle shades of temperature. Satellites like COBE, BUMAP, and Planck have mapped it in astonishing detail, revealing spots slightly warmer or cooler than their neighbours. These tiny fluctuations may look trivial, mere fractions of a degree, but they are in truth the fingerprints of ancient waves. In those first hundreds of thousands of years, matter and light pulsed together, squeezed by gravity and pushed outward by radiation, like the skin of a drum vibrating with force. Each peak and trough etched itself into the light, and we can still see those echoes today. To make sense of this, imagine striking a glass and hearing it ring. The pitch you hear is not random but determined by the glass's shape, size, and structure. In much the same way, the universe itself rang with certain frequencies, and the CMB captured those notes. What we detect now, with our telescopes and computers, is a frozen score of that early music, the hum and buzz of a cosmos still finding its rhythm. Physicists often call these acoustic peaks, but you might think of them simply as the universe's first chords, struck long before planets or people existed to listen. What is remarkable is how much those faint notes tell us. By studying the harmonics of the CMB, scientists can measure the age of the universe, its composition, even its geometry. It is as if the early cosmos left us a recording not only of its sound, but also of its stage and instruments. We learn that ordinary matter makes up only a small part of the performance, while dark matter and dark energy, mysterious and still only half understood, carry much of the underlying rhythm. Without those hidden players, galaxies would never have clustered, stars would never have flared to life, and the universe would be unrecognisably silent. And yet, for all the data and numbers, what the CMB evokes most deeply is awe. Imagine lying down beneath a night sky and realising that faint static is washing through you even then, not something you hear, but something that is always present, a background hum that has travelled almost 14 billion years to meet you. It is not dramatic. It does not roar or flash. It is more like the hush of a seashell pressed to the ear, except this shell is the universe itself, and the sound is older than time as we usually measure it. To make the thought more intimate, think of a teacup cooling on the table. For a while it gives off steam, carrying heat into the air until eventually it settles into stillness. In the same way, the early universe released its heat, letting it drift outward until it faded into background glow. The light that began then is still arriving now, spread thin across space, but unbroken. Every sip of radio static our instruments take is another taste of that ancient tea, long cooled but never entirely gone. When you consider this, it becomes easier to see why scientists sometimes describe the universe as an orchestra. Here is evidence that the cosmos did not begin in silence but in resonance, not in stillness but in vibration. What began as faint, almost inaudible ripples set the stage for everything else. Stars, galaxies, the Earth, and even the quiet thoughts passing through your mind right now. The echoes of the Big Bang are not only a scientific discovery, they are the opening notes of the symphony we still live inside. And so, as you let your body rest and your breath ease into its own rhythm, imagine yourself drifting back into that ancient sea of sound. Picture a cosmos glowing with light, quivering with ripples, each wave expanding outward, never fading entirely. The night around you may seem silent, but hidden in the quiet is the memory of those first vibrations, carrying forward, enfolding you, whispering that you are part of something old, vast, and resonant. The Big Bang did not only create matter and space, it began a song, one that has never ceased, though most of us only hear it as silence. The next time you tune past radio static or feel the hush of the night, you might remember the universe has been playing softly all along. When you tap the rim of a porcelain cup, a note rings out. It may be thin and high, fading quickly, but it is unmistakably a sound shaped by the cup's form. If you try the same with a glass bowl, the pitch will change, lower and fuller. Every material has its natural way of vibrating, a resonance that is written into its shape and structure. The universe, though far larger and stranger than any kitchen cupboard, obeys the same principle. Matter and light, the very building blocks of existence, do not sit in silence. They vibrate, shimmer and resonate, following patterns that are as precise as they are mysterious. At the smallest scales, the realm of atoms, we find that matter is less like tiny pebbles and more like notes held in invisible air. Early scientists imagined electrons as miniature planets, circling a central sun of protons and neutrons. But as quantum physics unfolded, that picture softened into something more subtle. Electrons do not orbit in neat ellipses. Instead, they exist in standing waves, clouds of probability shaped by harmony rather than by rigid tracks. Just as a guitar string can only vibrate in certain modes, producing distinct notes, electrons can only settle into particular patterns. Each allowed pattern corresponds to a certain energy, and when an electron shifts from one to another, it releases light of a very specific colour. This is why burning salt creates a yellow flame, why copper produces green, and why neon tubes glow in bright crimson hues. What you see in those colours are not accidents, but quantum notes being played as electrons drop from one resonance to another. Our eyes translate those resonances into shades, but at heart they are vibrations, discrete and predictable, as if atoms were tiny instruments performing their own invisible symphony. Light itself carries this musical quality further. It may appear to us as a steady beam or a simple glow, but light is in truth a wave, rippling through space with a rhythm defined by its wavelength. Blue light, short and quick, is like a high-pitched flute. Red light, longer and slower, resembles the sonorous tones of a cello. When combined, the entire rainbow is a choir, each colour a different pitch, blending together into the white light that surrounds us every day. What makes this even more astonishing is that these waves are not confined to what our eyes can see. Beyond violet lies ultraviolet light, invisible but real, carrying energy like a hidden violin section. Beyond red lies infrared, gentle and warm, like a bass line too low to hear but still felt in the skin. Stretch further and you find microwaves, radio waves, gamma rays, all different voices in the great spectrum of electromagnetic song. In daily life, we catch glimpses of these hidden harmonies without always recognizing them. A microwave oven warms food not with fire, but with waves tuned to make water molecules dance. An old radio, with its dial turned carefully, pulls one frequency from the air while ignoring countless others, like cupping your ear to one instrument in a crowded orchestra. Even your own body glows faintly in infrared, radiating warmth into the night, adding your personal note to the surrounding chorus. On the larger stage, light and matter together shape patterns that stretch across the cosmos. When gas clouds collapse under gravity to form stars, they vibrate with internal resonances, producing sound waves that travel through stellar interiors. Though we cannot hear them directly, astronomers can measure these oscillations through subtle changes in brightness, a science known as astrosismology. By listening to the stars in this way, scientists can learn their age, their size, even their composition. Each star becomes like a musical instrument, its vibrations telling us its story. Galaxies too reveal harmony in their swirls. Their spiral arms are not fixed structures but density waves, regions where stars gather and disperse in rhythmic patterns. Imagine cars on a highway slowing briefly at a curve, bunching together before spreading apart again. The arms of a galaxy are formed by similar traffic waves, written on a scale of hundreds of thousands of light years. From afar, they appear as frozen spirals, but in reality they are patterns moving through the galactic disk, repeating endlessly, a cosmic waltz written in light and matter. What connects all of these scales, from electrons leaping between energy levels to galaxies whirling in slow spirals, is resonance. It is the way the universe prefers to vibrate, the favoured patterns that endure because they're balanced, sustainable and harmonious. Resonance explains why certain bridges can hum when wind passes over them, why a singer's voice can shatter a glass if the pitch is exact, and why stars and atoms reveal themselves in quantized steps. Harmony is not just an aesthetic choice, it is a law of nature. This perspective reshapes the way we think about existence. Instead of seeing the universe as a collection of silent particles, we can imagine it as an unfolding score, every element playing its part. The difference between silence and sound is not the absence of vibration, but whether we are tuned to notice it. For us, the cosmos may seem still, but instruments like telescopes and detectors are like microphones pressed to the stage, revealing the subtle performance beneath. As you rest now, perhaps with your body loosening against the pillow, you can let this idea settle in like a gentle background chord. Every colour you see, Every warmth you feel, every star in the sky, is part of a resonance. Even your own voice, even your laughter, is a vibration carried through air, another contribution to the great orchestration of matter and light. To realise this is not to complicate life, but to make it feel more intimate. It means that every moment, from the flicker of a candle to the glow of the Milky Way, is stitched into a fabric of rhythm, balance and tone. And beyond this, if we imagine not just one universe but many, we may wonder whether other realms vibrate with different harmonies, whether their atoms glow with unfamiliar colours, whether their stars pulse with different rhythms, whether their galaxies spiral in unfamiliar patterns. The thought is both bewildering and comforting. It suggests that even in the unknown there is music. Perhaps we will never hear those notes directly, but knowing that they may exist allows us to imagine a symphony larger than our own. For now, it is enough to lie quietly and picture the invisible orchestra playing within and around you. The atoms in your body resonate, the light in your room oscillates, and the stars above hum their ancient tunes. You're not outside of this music. You're one of its themes, carried gently forward, a resonance among resonances. When you lie in bed at night and feel the familiar weight of your body pressing into the mattress, you're feeling the quietest and most persistent of all cosmic harmonies: gravity. It is not flashy, not quick, not even noticeable most of the time, and yet it plays through every moment of your life like the deep bass line of a symphony. Without it, there would be no rhythm for matter to dance to, no structure for light to shine upon, no stage on which the drama of the universe could unfold. Gravity is not simply a force. It is the silent conductor that tells planets when to turn, moons when to rise, and even your coffee when to stay firmly at the bottom of its cup. For centuries, gravity seemed almost magical. Apples fall, rivers run downhill, and people stay planted on the earth instead of drifting away like dust, all because of something invisible. In the 17th century, Isaac Newton put this mystery into words and numbers. He described gravity as a force that any two masses exert on each other. You, me, the earth, and the stars, we all pull on one another. The more massive the object, the stronger its pull, and the closer you are, the more firmly you feel it. It was a simple law, elegant and clear, and it explained not just falling apples, but also the movements of planets and the tides of the sea. Newton's law became the bass clef of physics, steady and reliable, shaping the way humans navigated the world and even the oceans. But like any great harmony, gravity revealed deeper complexity as our ears, or rather our instruments, improved. In the early 20th century, Albert Einstein transformed our understanding with his theory of general relativity. Instead of imagining gravity as a rope tugging objects together, he pictured space and time themselves as a flexible fabric. Place a heavy ball on a stretched sheet and the sheet curves. Roll a smaller ball nearby and it will spiral inward, not because it was pulled by an invisible string, but because it is simply following the curve of the sheet. In the same way, Earth circles the Sun not because it is yanked around, but because the Sun bends the space-time around it, and Earth moves along the straightest path possible in that curved landscape. This was more than a clever metaphor. It was a revelation that space and time were not silent backdrops but active participants in the cosmic performance. They bend, flex and ripple, shaping the choreography of stars and galaxies, and like all music, these ripples can sometimes be heard, or rather, detected. In 2015, a century after Einstein's prediction, scientists announced the first direct detection of gravitational waves, faint tremors in space-time created when two black holes collided billions of years ago. The waves reached Earth as distortions smaller than a fraction of a proton, yet they carried the unmistakable rhythm of that colossal crash. It was as though we had built microphones sensitive enough to catch the distant pounding of cosmic drums. Think for a moment about what this means. The universe is not still. Massive bodies orbit, collide, and merge, and each event sends ripples outward like stones dropped into a pond. These ripples travel endlessly, carrying with them a record of the moment they were born. By detecting them, we're not just observing the universe visually, like spectators watching a stage. We are listening to its hidden soundtrack. Black holes, once thought to be silent devourers of matter, turn out to be powerful percussionists striking chords that echo across the cosmos. Neutron stars, dense as city-sized suns compressed into a single body, spiral together and emit waves that sing, in a higher pitch, a cosmic violin compared to the booming timpani of black holes. Even here on Earth, though, gravity's harmony is always at work. It pulls the ocean into tides, creating the daily rhythm of rising and falling waters. It shapes the very air, holding our atmosphere close enough to breathe. Without gravity, raindrops would not fall, rivers would not run, and even the act of pouring tea into a cup would be impossible. Everyday actions, walking, sitting, lying down, are all part of the constant duet between your body and the earth beneath you. You press downward, the earth presses upward, and the balance between those two motions creates the sensation of weight. To bring this closer, imagine holding a book in your hand. As long as you grip it, you feel its weight. That tug downward reminding you of Earth's steady presence. Now release it, and the book falls, not because you pushed it, but because gravity carried it. In orbit, however, things become strange. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station are still within Earth's gravity, about 90% as strong as what you feel right now. But because they are falling continuously around the Earth, they appear weightless. They drift and float, not in the absence of gravity, but in perfect harmony with it, like dancers who leap but never land, suspended in an endless arc. There is poetry in realizing that gravity is everywhere, shaping everything, yet so soft that we rarely notice it. Stars gather into galaxies because of gravity's long, patient pull. Galaxies themselves assemble into clusters, forming structures so vast they defy ordinary imagination. And through all of this, gravity plays quietly, without need of sound, without visible strings, guiding the universe like a conductor who does not raise their voice, but whose gestures are enough to keep the entire orchestra together. As you rest here, with your head supported and your body sinking gently into the bed, you're in conversation with gravity. It holds you, cradles you, and reminds you that you are not separate from the Earth, but joined to it by the same silent harmony that holds moons in orbit and galaxies in spirals. The comfort of lying down is itself a small symphony. Mattress, body, and planet, each part of a balance that has endured for billions of years. And beyond the comfort, there is wonder, to know that every step you take, every moment you sit still, every star you glimpse in the night sky, is part of this same cosmic harmony, is to see yourself woven into a music far older than life itself. You're not only an observer of gravity's song, you're a participant in it. With every heartbeat, with every breath, you keep time to its rhythm. So let the thought settle gently. The universe does not fall into silence. Even in its stillness, it resonates with the harmony of gravity, a soundless yet unceasing bass line that guides everything from apples to galaxies. To sense it is to sense that the cosmos is not random chaos, but a carefully sustained chord, holding us close, carrying us forward, and reminding us that in this great symphony, nothing plays alone. When most people hear the word multiverse, the first image that comes to mind is a row of parallel Earths lined up like mirrors in a carnival funhouse. On one Earth, you woke up a few minutes earlier. On another, you wore a different shirt. On yet another, you never watched this video at all. It is an image repeated so often in science fiction that it has become almost unavoidable. But while the idea of mirror copies is entertaining, the possibilities suggested by physics are far stranger and perhaps far more beautiful. Instead of imagining reality as a neat stack of parallel lines, We might picture it as an orchestra, where each instrument plays its own melody, similar but not identical, and all together they weave a richer fabric of sound. To take the first step into this thought, consider how limited our usual view is. We are used to thinking of reality as singular, like a single path down a forest trail. But what if instead of one trail, there are many, spreading out like the roots of a tree, each one real, each one carrying its own streams and stones, its own clearings and shadows? We might never walk those other paths, but their existence would mean that our world is only one part of a far greater forest. The multiverse, in this sense, is less about endless copies of ourselves and more about the richness of possibility. Physics arrives at this not because it enjoys confusion, but because the equations sometimes seem to demand it. Theories of cosmic inflation, quantum mechanics, and even mathematics itself hint that our universe may not be unique. But before we weigh any equations, it helps to let go of the image of parallel Earths as if they were magazines in a stack, each identical except for the cover photo. The truth, if there is one, may be closer to music than to printing presses. Each universe might have its own tempo, its own tuning, its own set of rules that allow for certain harmonies and forbid others. Think of a string quartet. All four musicians hold similar instruments, but no two produce exactly the same sound. The violin sings high and piercing, the viola warmer and deeper, the cello rich and resonant, the double bass low and steady. They share the same stage, the same sheet of music, but their voices are distinct. Now imagine expanding that quartet into an orchestra of countless players, each bringing their own timbre. Some instruments might be familiar, some entirely alien, perhaps beyond anything we have ever heard. The multiverse, if it exists, could be like that. Not copies of one melody, but variations that together form a symphony grander than we can imagine. To bring this closer to everyday life, picture a patchwork quilt. Each square is stitched from different fabric, some bright, some muted, some rough, some smooth. Alone, each square has its own charm, but seen together they form a larger pattern. Our universe might be one such square, and the multiverse the quilt itself, woven from countless patches of reality, each with its own design. Or perhaps it is more like a woven tapestry, where threads cross and interlace, producing images that cannot be seen until you step back. From close up you see only one thread. From afar you see the whole picture. Science, cautious as always, frames these possibilities in terms of models and theories. Yet what matters for us tonight is not the precision of those models, but the invitation they carry. To imagine reality not as a single, lonely song, but as a concert hall where multiple melodies may be playing. Some might be similar to ours, sharing stars, galaxies, even beings who ponder existence. Others might be utterly different, where the laws of physics tilt into unfamiliar keys. Perhaps in one universe, atoms never formed, and the music is silence. Perhaps in another, gravity sings in a different pitch, pulling stars into shapes no telescope here could recognize. There is something comforting about this thought. In our daily lives, we often imagine ourselves as solitary, as if our experiences were the only ones that mattered. But the idea of a multiverse suggests that solitude is an illusion. Even if we never cross the boundary of our own universe, the very possibility that others exist reshapes our sense of belonging. We're not a single violin playing into the void, but part of a much larger ensemble, our melody one among countless others. Of course, one could object. If these other universes exist, why can we not see them? Why is there no doorway, no faint shimmer at the horizon, no whisper of sound through the cosmic wall? The answer may be that the boundaries are too absolute, the keys too different, the scores too distinct to ever overlap. In music, two songs played in entirely different tempos may be beautiful on their own, but impossible to merge. The same may be true of universes. Their melodies may never blend into ours, but that does not mean they do not exist. And perhaps that is enough. You do not need to hear every instrument in an orchestra to feel the fullness of the music. Sometimes a single voice is sufficient to suggest the whole. Our universe may be that single voice, carrying a melody that hints at something greater, even if the rest of the ensemble remains beyond hearing. The important part is the shift in perspective, from imagining reality as one thin line to imagining it as part of a wider harmony. So, as you rest here tonight, think of the multiverse not as a stack of comic books on a shelf, but as a hall filled with music, each corner echoing with a different sound. Somewhere, perhaps, there are melodies we would never recognize, chords that would feel discordant to our ears. Somewhere else, there may be notes that would resonate so deeply with us we would swear they were our own. And though we may never hear them directly, the possibility that they exist allows us to feel our place differently, not as isolated but as woven into a larger unseen ensemble. The night outside may appear silent, but within that silence, imagine the possibility of countless orchestras tuning up, each with its own character, each playing just beyond our perception. We may never attend their concerts, but knowing that they may be playing is enough to remind us that our own melody is not alone. It is part of something broader, something vast, something that might just be called a cosmic symphony. Imagine blowing a soap bubble on a summer afternoon. You dip the wand into soapy water, lift it carefully, and with a soft breath send a shimmering globe drifting into the air. If you blow again, another bubble forms, then another, until the sky around you sparkles with floating fragile worlds. Each one reflects light a little differently. Some glint with pink, some with green, some with the full swirl of a rainbow. Now stretch this image into the cosmos, and you have a picture, gentle, incomplete, but evocative, of what physicists call eternal inflation. It is the idea that our universe may be just one bubble in a vast froth of universes, each expanding, shimmering and drifting with its own set of cosmic colours. To understand why anyone would think this, we have to return to the first moments after the Big Bang. In those unimaginable fractions of a second, the universe did not expand at a steady pace. Instead, according to the theory of inflation, it ballooned outward with breathtaking speed, doubling again and again, faster than even the speed of light could keep up. This rapid growth smoothed out irregularities, stretched space flat, and set the stage for galaxies and stars to form. Without inflation, the universe we see today, so even in its vastness, so delicately balanced, would be hard to explain. But inflation may not be something that happened once and ended. Andrei Linde, a Russian-American physicist, proposed that inflation might be eternal. In his picture, while inflation slowed in some regions, allowing matter and light to form the kind of universe we inhabit, in other regions it continued unchecked. New bubbles of space-time kept budding off, each one beginning its own expansion, each one potentially governed by slightly different laws. In this way, the multiverse could be like an endless chorus, with new voices joining constantly, some faint, some strong, each carrying its own tune. What does it mean for each universe to have different laws? It means that the basic notes of reality, the strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, the expansion rate of space, might vary from bubble to bubble. In one universe, stars might burn hotter and faster, exhausting themselves quickly. In another, atoms might never hold together at all, leaving a cosmos of silence. In still another, conditions might line up just right for galaxies, planets, and eventually life to arise. From our perspective, it is as though the multiverse is experimenting with many melodies, and we find ourselves inside one where the notes happen to form a tune that allows us to listen. This can sound dizzying, but the image of bubbles makes it feel almost gentle. Picture a child running through a field, chasing floating orbs, each one fragile, each one reflecting sunlight in its own way. You do not need to catch them all to know they exist. It is enough to watch them drift, knowing each one holds its own little universe of colour. In the same way, we do not need to see into other universes directly to imagine their presence. The logic of inflation suggests they are possible, maybe even inevitable. And yet, just as with music, we must accept that we may never hear the other parts of the chorus directly. Our bubble is sealed off, its notes confined to our stage. The walls of our universe expand faster than any signal could cross, making it impossible to reach beyond. The other bubbles, if they exist, are too far, too separate, their melodies inaudible to us. But even if we cannot listen to them, the knowledge that they might be there changes the way we hear our own song. We are not a soloist in silence, we are part of an unseen choir. Some scientists search for subtle traces that could hint at collisions between bubbles, ripples in the cosmic microwave background, tiny asymmetries that might whisper of another universe brushing against ours in the distant past. So far, the evidence remains ambiguous, but the attempt itself is striking. It is like listening closely to a choir, trying to discern if there is a faint harmony hidden behind the main melody. Even the possibility that such echoes exist makes the universe feel less solitary. To bring this closer to your own experience, think about how everyday life is shaped by resonance you cannot see. A soap bubble is delicate, but its colours reveal hidden layers of light interacting with itself. A seashell held to the ear whispers of the ocean, though all it really carries are echoes of your own blood and breath. A radio tuned between stations produces static, yet within that static lies the memory of the universe's first light. In each case, something small and ordinary points to something vast and extraordinary. Eternal inflation, though complex as theory, can be felt in the same way, a recognition that what seems singular may be part of something much larger, something that repeats endlessly with variations. As you lie here now, perhaps with your breath slowing, picture yourself inside a great bubble drifting across the cosmic field. Around you, unseen, other bubbles expand and shine with their own hidden light. You may never visit them, but you can imagine their melodies blending into a vast chorus. Our bubble carries one song, of galaxies and stars, of life and thought. But it is only one voice among countless possibilities, and perhaps that is what makes it precious. The knowledge that out of all the ways reality might unfold, here you are listening to this particular harmony. So let the thought rest gently. The universe may not be a single, final creation, but part of an endless chorus of bubbles, each swelling outward, each shimmering with its own tune. The music of existence does not end with us. It expands forever, new notes joining the composition without pause. You do not need to grasp the mathematics or measure the distances. It is enough to imagine a child's breath, a field of bubbles, a rainbow of fragile worlds, and to know that somewhere beyond the chorus continues. If you have ever wandered into a music hall before a performance begins, you know the sound of a fugue in preparation. A violinist tries one passage again and again. The pianist touches keys softly to test their weight. A flute offers a note that seems to hover in the air before disappearing. None of these fragments make sense alone, but together they suggest a structure waiting to be revealed. Mathematics, in a way, carries the same atmosphere. Equations may appear cold or abstract when written on a page, but when woven together, they form structures of astonishing beauty, layered like voices in a fugue. The physicist Max Tegmark has proposed an idea that takes this beauty to its most daring conclusion. Perhaps mathematics is not just a language we use to describe reality. Perhaps mathematics is reality. Every equation, every consistent structure, might correspond to its own universe, complete and self-contained. Our cosmos, with its familiar constants and forces, could be just one stanza in an infinite mathematical fugue, while other universes unfold from entirely different scores. At first, this may sound impossible, even nonsensical, like claiming that numbers can sing or that geometry can breathe. But step back for a moment and consider how much of our daily life already rests on invisible mathematics. The way a bridge stands firm against weight, the way a satellite circles Earth without falling, the way a rainbow arches across the sky. Each follows patterns that can be expressed as ratios, equations, and symmetries. The elegance of a snowflake with its six-fold design is not a coincidence, but the geometry of water molecules arranging themselves according to laws of physics. In this sense, mathematics already composes the melodies of the world around us. Now extend that idea. If one set of equations can describe our universe, why could others not describe universes of their own? Perhaps there are worlds where gravity is stronger, where light bends differently, where time itself flows in patterns we cannot imagine. Each would be a different mathematical composition, as distinct from ours as a violin solo is from a drum beat. Together they would form a fugue, a weaving of independent lines that echo, diverge, and harmonize without ever collapsing into one. The metaphor of music is not accidental here. A fugue is built from voices that enter one after another, each carrying the same theme but transformed in pitch, rhythm, or direction. The beauty comes not from any single line, but from the interplay of them all. In the same way, the mathematical multiverse is not about duplicates of ourselves repeating the same script, but about variations on existence, each guided by its own underlying logic. We may only ever hear our line clearly, but if the fugue exists, then countless other voices continue alongside us, forming a harmony beyond our reach. This can feel abstract, so let us soften it with images from everyday life. Imagine walking into a library where every book is written in a language you cannot yet read. Each book is internally consistent with its own grammar and structure, but only a few are accessible to you. Our universe is like the book we happen to inhabit, but that does not mean the others are meaningless. They are simply written in different scripts, telling different stories. Or imagine a shelf of sheet music, each score composed in its own key. Some you can play easily, others are too complex, and some may sound dissonant to your ears. Yet each one is music all the same, waiting for the right instrument to bring it to life. Humour has a way of making even the most daunting ideas approachable. If Tegmark's proposal is right, then even imaginary numbers, those curious mathematical creatures that square to -1, might demand universes of their own. Picture an entire cosmos ruled by equations where the square root of -1 is as ordinary as the number 2, and you might smile at the absurdity. But that smile is part of the point. What seems strange to us may simply be another variation in the grand score. If mathematics is limitless, then so too are the possible worlds it can compose. Of course, we do not know if this vision is true. Many physicists remain cautious, pointing out that such universes may be forever beyond observation, making the idea less science and more philosophy. Yet even as speculation, it offers something gentle, the reminder that reality might be far broader than what we see. The fugue may continue beyond the edges of our hearing, and we, with our limited instruments, may only ever catch one line. That does not diminish its beauty. If anything, it makes our melody feel more precious, a clear voice in an endless composition. As you lie quietly now, perhaps listening to the faint hum of a fan or the rhythm of your own breath, you can imagine yourself as a single note in this mathematical fugue. Around you, unheard but real, other notes may be sounding, woven into a tapestry you cannot see. Your life, with its choices and memories, may seem small against the vastness of equations, but in truth, it is part of the same music. You do not need to solve the math to feel the harmony. It's enough to know that the universe itself is shaped by patterns, and that those patterns are capable of infinite variation. So let the thought settle gently. Reality may not be a single melody, but one voice in a fugue of mathematics, echoing endlessly, repeating with variation, weaving into structures far beyond our reach. Even if we never hear the other voices, our note still matters, it still resonates. And somewhere in the quiet of the cosmos, the fugue continues steady and eternal, as though mathematics itself is humming softly in the dark. Imagine standing in a choir hall as the singers begin a round. One voice starts, then another enters a beat later, and then another. Soon the space is filled with overlapping lines, each distinct but echoing the same theme, weaving into something greater than any single voice. This is the essence of a fugue in music, and it is also a way to picture one of the strangest ideas in modern physics, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. According to this vision, every quantum event, every choice between possibilities, does not resolve into one outcome but branches, creating a new line of reality. What we call the universe may be just one part of an endless choir, each voice singing a different version of events, all arising from the same initial theme. To appreciate this, let us begin with something simple, a coin toss. You flip a coin, and in our everyday experience it must land either heads or tails. But in quantum mechanics, before the coin lands, it exists in a state of both possibilities at once, a superposition. When it is observed, the state seems to collapse into one outcome. Most interpretations of quantum physics treat this collapse as real. The universe chooses one path, and the other vanishes into nothing. The many worlds interpretation, first suggested by Hugh Everett in the 1950s, offers a different melody. It suggests that no possibility truly disappears. Instead, the universe branches, one where the coin lands heads, another where it lands tails. Both continue, like two voices in a choir singing diverging but connected notes. The image of branching may feel unsettling, but it is less about duplication and more about harmony. Just as a choir does not reduce itself to a single voice, reality may not limit itself to a single outcome. Each possible line exists, unfolding in parallel, creating a cosmic round that grows richer with every quantum event. Think of light passing through two slits in a famous experiment. It behaves as though it travels both paths at once, producing an interference pattern that only makes sense if both possibilities are real. In our universe, we see one outcome. In another, a different outcome shines. Together, they form a larger pattern, like voices weaving through a song. Of course, we never notice these branches directly. To us, life feels singular, a line of moments stitched together in order. But the quantum choir suggests that behind this perception lies a much more complex score, where every decision, every particle interaction produces new harmonies. You decide to take a walk or to stay home. In one branch you see the sunset. In another, you miss it. Both exist, each as real as the other, though you can only follow one line consciously. The rest continue without you, filling the cosmic choir with voices you will never hear. This thought can feel heavy, as though it dilutes the meaning of our choices. But perhaps it does the opposite. A single voice in a choir matters, even if surrounded by dozens of others. Without your note, the harmony would be incomplete. The many worlds view does not diminish your life. It situates it within a broader symphony, reminding you that every path resonates, every possibility has its place. Your awareness may only trace one thread, but the whole composition is richer because of the branching. To bring this closer, think of how you listen to music. When a round is sung, you do not follow every voice at once. Your ear may catch one line, then another, and then step back to sense the full texture. In the same way, you inhabit one universe, one branch, but that does not mean the others are absent. They form the unseen texture of the whole, a pattern larger than your perception. Everyday life already gives us glimpses of this feeling. When you recall a memory, you may imagine what might have happened differently. The job you did not take, the words you did not say, the chance you missed or embraced. Those imagined branches are not real to you, but they resonate with possibility. In the quantum choir, they may be more than imagination. They may be parallel verses sung just beyond your hearing. Science, cautious as always, does not claim this interpretation as fact. Many worlds remains one of several ways to understand quantum mechanics, yet its poetry lies in how it reframes uncertainty. Instead of collapse and loss, it offers branching and preservation. Nothing is truly discarded, it simply joins the choir, another voice in the ongoing round. Whether or not this is literally true, the metaphor itself is gentle. Reality may be less about choosing one note and more about sustaining harmony across many. As you rest tonight, perhaps picture yourself as one voice in this choir. Your choices, your moments, your presence add to the melody. Somewhere beyond your awareness, other versions of you may be singing different lines, each shaped by different paths. You cannot hear them, but their existence enriches the whole. Like echoes in a cathedral, overlapping, fading, returning, the quantum choir fills the silence with possibility, and so let the thoughts soften into quiet. Reality may not be a single voice, but a round, branching and resonating, each line continuing forever. You're not outside the choir, you're one of its singers carrying your notes steadily, even as countless others join around you. The song is larger than you can know, but your place within it is secure, your voice woven into the harmony of the cosmos. Imagine stepping into a vast concert hall where the instruments are so small, so delicate, that you cannot see or hear them directly. You sense their presence only through the faint tremors they leave behind, the way the air seems to shift or the walls seem to hum ever so slightly. This is a way of picturing string theory, a proposal in physics that suggests the universe at its deepest level is not made of point-like particles, but of tiny vibrating strings. Each string, unimaginably small, resonates at a specific frequency, and the pattern of its vibration determines what kind of particle it becomes. A photon, an electron, even the forces that hold matter together, each might be nothing more than a note plucked on an invisible string. If this is true, then reality itself is a grand instrument, filled with countless strings playing in harmony and dissonance, producing the music we know as physics. What we call particles are not static building blocks, but the tones of vibrating strings. Just as a violin can play many notes depending on how its strings are tuned and bowed, the cosmos might allow many kinds of particles depending on the hidden arrangements of these fundamental strings. The universe becomes not a machine of cogs and wheels, but an orchestra of vibrating filaments. Yet the metaphor extends further. String theory suggests not just one tuning, but an entire landscape of possibilities. Millions, perhaps even more. Each arrangement of strings could give rise to a different set of physical laws. One universe might favour strong gravity, another weak. One might have stable atoms, another none at all. Together, this landscape forms something like a hall filled with instruments, each tuned differently, each capable of producing its own music. The universe we inhabit is one performance chosen from this vast catalogue, one melody sustained among endless others. To soften this abstract idea, think of walking through a music store where violins hang on the wall. At first glance they look similar, but when played each produces its own timbre, rich or thin, bright or mellow. Or picture an old piano slightly out of tune, its notes sounding strange and unfamiliar. The strings are the same, but their tuning alters the music. In the same way, the fundamental strings of the cosmos could be tuned in countless ways, each giving rise to a distinct reality. We live inside one arrangement, but the landscape suggests there could be many others, each hidden, each waiting. This notion, while breathtaking, remains speculative. Physicists have yet to prove string theory, and the scales it requires, so tiny that even our most powerful instruments cannot probe them, make testing extraordinarily difficult. Still, the imagery it provides is hauntingly beautiful. To think of reality as a web of vibrations is to imagine existence itself as music, composed in dimensions beyond our perception. Some versions of the theory propose not just the familiar three dimensions of space and one of time, but additional dimensions curled up so tightly we never notice them. If true, those hidden dimensions would be like silent instruments tucked away in the back of the orchestra, their notes faint but essential to the harmony of the whole. Everyday life gives us small echoes of this idea. When you pluck a guitar string, you not only hear the main note but also subtle overtones, harmonics that blend to create richness. In the same way, the universe might contain harmonics we cannot detect directly, but that shape the character of what we do observe. Or consider how a room can resonate at certain frequencies, sing in just the right pitch, and the walls vibrate faintly in response. The cosmos too might resonate with hidden frequencies shaping the forms we see. Stars, galaxies, the atoms in your body. There is humility in recognizing how little we may perceive. Our senses are tuned to a narrow band of vibrations, visible light, audible sound, the solid feel of matter beneath our hands. But beyond that, unseen strings may be vibrating in scales too high or too low for us to notice. String theory invites us to imagine that reality is richer than we know, an unseen symphony playing beyond the limits of our ears. Whether or not the theory is ultimately correct, the metaphor alone reminds us that the universe may be more like music than machinery, more like resonance than rigidity. And so, when we speak of the string landscape, we're not talking about a desert or a mountain range, but a map of possibilities, a catalogue of ways the cosmic orchestra could be tuned. Our universe is one patch of this landscape, one melody realized, while countless others remain as silent possibilities. The thought is not discouraging but comforting. It tells us that existence is not fragile, teetering on a single configuration, but abundant, flourishing with variety. Just as nature on Earth produces countless species, each adapted to its niche, perhaps the larger cosmos produces countless universes, each with its own internal harmony. As you rest here, perhaps with your breath settling into a slower rhythm, imagine yourself lying in that great concert hall. Around you are instruments you cannot see, strings vibrating in silence, dimensions folded upon themselves. Somewhere in that hall, the melody of your universe plays, steady and familiar, carrying you gently along. Elsewhere, other melodies may rise and fall, unheard but present, blending into the larger harmony. You may never walk through the landscape, never hear its other tunes, but knowing that they may exist allows you to feel the music of your own world more deeply. So let the thought linger quietly. Beneath every particle, every star, every moment, there may be strings vibrating, weaving harmonies too small to see and too vast to fathom. The cosmos is not a machine of gears, but an instrument of endless possibility. And in the hidden halls of existence, other instruments may be playing, their melodies joining ours in a symphony that stretches across the unseen. Imagine listening to a piece of music where the final note does not end the song, but circles quietly back into the beginning. The melody softens, the instruments pause, and then, almost imperceptibly, the theme returns, familiar yet changed. This is the feeling of a chant repeated, or the slow tide rolling in and out, or the turning of seasons year after year. In the cosmos, some thinkers believe time itself may move in similar cycles, not a straight arrow shooting into infinity, but a repeating movement where universes rise, fade, and begin again. One of the most striking proposals of this kind is Roger Penrose's conformal cyclic cosmology, which suggests that our universe is not the first nor the last, but one among many verses in an eternal chant. To picture this idea, imagine the universe as a great piece of music with multiple movements. Our universe, with its galaxies, stars, and people, is one movement, filled with crescendos and silences. When it reaches its close, when stars have burned out, black holes have evaporated, and all matter has dissolved into light, the music does not stop. Instead, the final fading tones stretch seamlessly into the opening of the next movement. In Penrose's vision, the distant future of our cosmos transforms into the birth of another, a new Big Bang beginning where the last universe ended. Each cycle is an aeon, a verse in the endless chant of existence. At first, this may sound paradoxical. How can a cold, dark, empty universe filled only with faint radiation give rise to something as hot and vibrant as the Big Bang? The key lies in how space and time themselves are stretched. In the far future, when everything has decayed into light, the universe loses its sense of scale. Distances and sizes no longer matter when only massless particles remain. In that strange state, the fading cosmos can be reinterpreted as the beginning of a new one, the silence folding back into song. We can soften this abstraction with everyday parallels. Think of a candle that burns down to its last flicker. To the eye, it looks like an ending, but from that flicker comes heat, light, and the potential to ignite another flame. Or imagine waves on the shore. Each wave seems to end as it collapses into foam, yet the motion continues, one wave after another carrying the rhythm forward. The end is never final. It is simply part of a cycle. In the same way, a universe that appears to end in silence may only be setting the stage for the next verse. Penrose's proposal is not the only cyclical vision. Other cosmologists have wondered if universes might expand and contract endlessly, like a cosmic heartbeat. In these models, a Big Bang is followed by expansion, then eventually by collapse, which sets the stage for another explosion. Though evidence for such models is debated, the poetry of the idea endures. Time as a circle, rather than a line, existence as a chant that repeats without finality. What makes these ideas soothing is not whether they are provably true, but the perspective they offer. In daily life, we often think of endings as absolute. A day ends, a season closes, a life fades, and we feel the sharpness of finality. But in the cosmos, endings may be transitions, silences that prepare the return of music. This does not erase the sadness of endings, but it softens them, situating them in a larger rhythm. If the universe itself breathes in cycles, then perhaps our smaller cycles, waking and sleeping, growing and fading, are echoes of that same pattern. There is also comfort in the idea that nothing is wasted. In a chant, even when the words fade, their memory shapes the next verse. In Penrose's cosmology, traces of previous universes might survive in subtle imprints on the cosmic microwave background, faint signals from aeons before ours. Scientists have searched for such patterns, circular imprints that could hint at collisions between supermassive black holes in a prior universe. Whether those signals are real or not remains uncertain, but the idea itself is quietly moving, that our cosmos might carry whispers of earlier songs, faint but enduring, like the echo of a chant sung long ago. As you rest here, perhaps with your breath falling into its own rhythm, consider how your body already participates in cycles. Your heart beats, your lungs expand and contract, your thoughts rise and fade. Sleep itself is a cycle, with stages that return again and again through the night. In each, you move forward but also circle back, never in quite the same way, but never fully leaving the pattern behind. If the universe is cyclical, then you're not separate from it. You're one verse in a chant that spans scales from the smallest breath to the widest cosmos. So let the thought settle like a soft refrain. Time may not be a straight path that leaves us behind, but a circle that carries us onward, repeating, renewing, beginning again. Even when notes fade, the music continues. Even when a wave collapses, the tide rolls in. Even when a universe grows cold and dark, another may rise from its silence. And you, lying here, are part of that larger rhythm, a participant in the chant of existence, carried by cycles older and grander than memory. Imagine sitting in a quiet room at night. The walls are thick, the lights are dim, and everything feels enclosed, private, self-contained. Yet if you listen carefully, You might notice faint sounds that do not belong to your room at all. Perhaps a neighbour's laughter drifts through the wall, or the soft thump of footsteps above, or music playing faintly down the hall. You cannot see these other rooms, and you cannot join them, but their presence leaves a trace, an overlapping echo in your world. Some cosmologists wonder if something similar might happen between universes. Our cosmos may feel sealed off, like a single room, but perhaps faint hints of other realities touch the edges of our own, leaving subtle marks if only we know how to listen. This idea is speculative, but it emerges naturally from the theory of eternal inflation, the same picture we explored when we imagined universes as bubbles floating in a vast cosmic froth. If bubbles can drift and expand, might they sometimes bump into one another? And if so, could those collisions leave scars, faint patterns in the fabric of our universe? The way ripples from one stone tossed into a pond interfere with ripples from another. Some scientists have suggested that bubble collisions could leave imprints in the cosmic microwave background, those ancient ripples of light that still wash across us from the early universe. They search for asymmetries, circular patterns, or unexpected disturbances that might whisper, "Another universe brushed past here once." So far, the evidence is inconclusive. The cosmic background is noisy, full of its own ancient vibrations, and teasing out a signal of another universe is like trying to hear a single violin from the other side of a busy street. Yet the possibility is enchanting. To imagine that our universe may have once touched another is to imagine that we are not entirely isolated, that in the grand chorus of existence, voices sometimes overlap. There are other ways to frame this thought. Consider how sound travels in a house. You may hear music from a nearby room, but only certain notes come through clearly. The walls filter the sound, muffling some frequencies while allowing others to vibrate faintly. In the same way, if universes do interact, the information may arrive only as blurred patterns, faint harmonies we cannot interpret fully. Still, even a muffled echo can change the way we hear silence. Everyday life is full of similar moments. Think of lying in bed as a storm passes outside. You cannot see the rain, but you hear the patter against the roof, the distant roll of thunder, the whistle of wind. Those sounds are not part of your room, yet they enter it, shaping your experience. Or think of a radio tuned between stations. The static may carry faint traces of voices from channels you cannot quite reach. Even without clarity, those voices remind you that you're surrounded by signals overlapping and interwoven. The thought that other universes might leave similar traces, subtle, elusive, but present, brings a strange intimacy to the cosmos. Of course, we must be careful. The science here is tentative, and much of it may never be testable. The walls between universes may be too strong, the distance is too great, the harmonies too faint to ever register in our instruments. Yet even the act of searching has meaning. It reflects our instinct to listen beyond our own walls, to imagine that the music we know is not the whole performance. And in that act there is a kind of hope, that we are not alone in our melody, that somewhere, beyond silence, another song is playing. Some philosophers have asked whether our universe might even be subtly influenced by others, in ways we do not yet understand. Could the constants of nature be shaped by interactions with universes beyond? Could the vacuum of space itself hold memory of collisions long past? These are not questions with clear answers, but they are invitations to imagine. Perhaps what feels like random chance is part of a larger harmony, faint connections threading across realities. As you rest tonight, it may be soothing to picture your world as one room in a vast house, each room holding its own music, its own laughter, its own quiet. The walls between rooms may be thick, but they are not absolute. Every so often a vibration passes through, a muffled note, a distant rhythm. You do not need to know the details to feel the presence. The very possibility is enough to shift perspective, from isolation to resonance, from solitude to ensemble. And perhaps this is what it means to tune into other universes. Not that we will ever open a door and walk across the threshold, but that we might sense faint harmonies through the walls. The evidence may remain subtle, ambiguous, uncertain. Yet in listening for it, we remember that the cosmos is wider than what we see. Our own melody is precious, but it may not be alone. Somewhere beyond the horizon, other voices may be singing, their echoes just faint enough to reach us, reminding us that the universe, our universe, is part of a larger unseen chorus. Imagine two bells, crafted from the same metal, struck at the same moment. Even if you move them apart, carry one to the far end of the hall and leave the other behind, the memory of their shared strike lingers. Strike one again, and it feels, almost superstitiously, as though the other should ring in sympathy. In reality, bells do not behave that way. But in the quantum world, something strangely similar does occur. This is the phenomenon called entanglement, where two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one is tied to the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Measure one, and instantly the other reflects the result, as if they are performing a duet across the void. Einstein once called this spooky action at a distance, because it seemed to defy the limits of communication. No signal should travel faster than light, and yet entangled particles respond in lockstep, even when separated by light years. For decades, scientists debated whether this was a trick of perception or a genuine feature of reality. Experiments have since confirmed it again and again. Entanglement is real, as though the universe keeps certain pairs of notes bound together, resonating in harmony no matter the distance between them. It is important to say what entanglement does not mean. It does not allow messages to travel faster than light. You cannot send secret notes across the galaxy using entangled particles. The harmony is deeper and subtler. The two systems remain parts of a single whole, no matter how far they drift. It is as though they never stopped being one instrument, even when placed on opposite sides of the stage. Now imagine extending this metaphor. If particles can remain entangled across vast stretches of space, what might this say about the universe itself? Could entanglement be the faint trace of a deeper connection, a hidden bridge across realities? Some physicists have speculated that entanglement may be linked to the very fabric of space-time, that the geometry of reality itself may emerge from webs of entanglement, like a tapestry woven from invisible threads. If this is true, then perhaps the connections we see at the quantum scale are hints of larger harmonies, resonances that span not only our universe, but potentially others as well. To bring this closer to everyday life, think of friendships that endure across distance. Two people may live far apart, separated by oceans and years, yet when they speak, the resonance is immediate. They laugh at the same moments, remember the same details, fall easily into a rhythm as though no time has passed. Entanglement feels a little like that, an invisible thread of connection that persists even when space intervenes. Or think of tuning forks, strike one, and if the other is nearby, it begins to vibrate in sympathy. The physics is different, of course, but the image is helpful. Resonance carries across space, binding notes together in unexpected ways. There is something profoundly soothing about this thought. In a world where we often feel separate from each other, from nature, from the cosmos, entanglement reminds us that separation is not absolute. At the most fundamental level, connections endure, invisible and unbreakable. The particles in your body may once have been entangled with those in distant stars, sharing a harmony that still echoes faintly through the fabric of reality. Speculatively, one can imagine, if entanglement threads through our universe so deeply, might there be threads that pass beyond it? Could the harmony extend into the multiverse, binding not only particles but entire realities? It is not something we can test, at least not yet, but the metaphor invites us to imagine a grander choir, where universes themselves resonate in entanglement, their fates linked in ways we cannot perceive. Even if this vision remains speculative, the reality we already know is astonishing enough. Quantum entanglement is not a philosophical musing, but a tool scientists use. Experiments harness it for quantum cryptography, ensuring that messages remain secure. Researchers hope to build quantum computers that rely on entanglement to perform calculations far beyond what classical machines can achieve. Already, entanglement has been demonstrated between particles separated by hundreds of kilometers, their harmony intact despite the distance. These achievements remind us that entanglement is not merely an idea, it is a feature of the world, something we can work with, something that sings even when we do not fully understand the score. As you lie here now, perhaps with your thoughts drifting gently like leaves on a stream, you can imagine yourself as part of this harmony. The atoms in your body resonate with patterns set long ago, entangled with the wider cosmos in ways beyond your sensing. The fact that you exist at all is a kind of resonance, particles bound together, dancing in harmony, forming the melody that is you. Whether or not entanglement threads extend into other universes, the harmony already here is enough to fill the silence with wonder. So let the thought soften as you rest. Reality is not made only of separations, but of connections. Threads woven invisibly through space, notes held together across distance. Just as two bells struck together ring in sympathy, particles sing in duets that no gap can silence. Perhaps the universe itself is such a duet, perhaps even a choir, resonating across scales we cannot yet hear. And perhaps, if the multiverse exists, its voices too are bound together, entangled across the score of existence, forming a harmony more profound than we can imagine. If you have ever held a seashell to your ear, you know the experience of hearing what seems like the ocean inside. Of course, the sound is not truly the sea, but the echo of air moving within the shell, amplified into a whisper that feels larger than it is. Still, the illusion is enchanting. A simple object becomes a portal to a vast world beyond. Humanity's instruments for listening to the cosmos work in much the same way. They take faint vibrations, ripples in light, shifts in gravity, tiny pulses of radio waves, and amplify them until they become signals we can hear and interpret. Each new instrument is like a shell lifted to our ear, helping us catch a whisper from the universe. For most of human history, our listening was limited to light. We built telescopes to gather photons, first with glass lenses, then with polished mirrors, and eventually with arrays that spanned mountainsides and space itself. Through light, we learn to see galaxies billions of light years away. Yet light alone is not the whole performance. Imagine attending an orchestra but hearing only the violins while every other section is silenced. The music would be thin, missing its depth. For centuries that was our predicament. The universe was playing a full symphony, but we had only one instrument tuned in. The last century has changed that. We began listening with radio telescopes, picking up frequencies our eyes could not see. Suddenly, the sky was filled with new voices, pulsars ticking like celestial metronomes, quasars blazing with energy, hydrogen gas humming across the galaxy. Each discovery was like adding a new section to the orchestra, broadening the sound. Then came X-ray telescopes and gamma-ray detectors, tuned to the high-energy end of the spectrum, revealing violent collisions and explosive bursts. Gradually, the score of the cosmos grew richer, fuller, layered with parts we'd never heard before. And then, not long ago, came perhaps the most profound addition: gravitational wave detectors. Instruments like LIGO and Virgo are vast, delicate setups where lasers travel down long tunnels, bouncing between mirrors. They are designed to detect distortions in space-time itself, ripples created when massive objects like black holes spiral together. The changes they measure are unimaginably small, fractions of the width of a proton, but when the first signal arrived in 2015, It was unmistakable. The universe had sent us the sound of two black holes colliding 1 billion years ago, and we had finally built an ear sensitive enough to hear it. It was a moment like turning up the volume on an instrument that had been playing all along. Suddenly we were not just watching the universe, we were listening to its deep vibrations. Each gravitational wave detection since has been another note added to the growing chorus. Neutron stars colliding, black holes merging, perhaps someday even echoes from the earliest moments after the Big Bang. The universe had always been singing, but only now do we have the instruments to catch its bass line. Looking ahead, the instruments will become even more refined. Plans are underway for the Laser Interferometer Space Antenna, or LISA, a trio of satellites flying millions of kilometers apart, listening for waves too low for ground-based detectors to sense. Imagine stretching a microphone across the orbit of Earth itself, tuned to vibrations that last hours or days instead of seconds. With it, we may hear mergers of supermassive black holes, or the background hum of countless smaller collisions across the cosmos. Other projects, like pulsar timing arrays, use the steady ticking of distant pulsars, those spinning neutron stars, as cosmic metronomes. If space-time ripples pass between us and them, the timing of their beats shifts ever so slightly, revealing the presence of waves as subtle as the universe allows. In everyday life, we know the importance of better instruments. Think of the difference between listening to music on an old radio full of static and hearing the same piece on a high-quality speaker that reveals every nuance. Or picture a magnifying glass that turns a blur into detail, or noise-cancelling headphones that allow you to hear faint textures of a recording you never noticed before. Our cosmic instruments are much the same. Each upgrade reveals layers we did not know we were missing. The universe was never silent. We simply lack the ears to hear. There is a gentle humour in this. We are tiny beings on a small planet, and yet we have been stubborn enough to keep building better microphones for the cosmos. We build them in deserts, in valleys, in orbit around Earth, all in the hope of catching whispers from events unimaginably far away. And sometimes, those whispers arrive. A flicker in a detector, a shift in timing, a ripple in laser beams, and suddenly we are listening to collisions that happened long before life on Earth began. It is humbling, even amusing, that so much effort goes into catching the faintest hints of music we cannot hear with our ears but know is there. As you rest now, perhaps imagine yourself lying in a concert hall before the performance begins. The audience is quiet, the instruments are tuning, and you are aware of a fullness in the air, something vast about to begin. This is how humanity feels as it builds its instruments, waiting, listening, sensing that the music of the cosmos is more layered than we have yet heard. We may never catch every note, but with each new ear, each new shell lifted to our head, we hear a little more of the symphony that has been unfolding since the beginning of time. So let the thought settle softly. The universe has never been silent, only patient. Its harmonies travel across space as light, as waves, as vibrations too deep for our ears. Slowly, carefully, we are learning to listen. Each instrument we build is another step toward tuning into the grand performance. And you, lying here, are part of that effort, a listener at the edge of discovery, waiting for the next note to arrive. If you have ever heard a piano badly out of tune, you know how unsettling it can feel. The melody may still be recognisable, but each note clashes with the next, leaving the music jagged and uncomfortable. A string slightly tightened or loosened too much is enough to turn harmony into discord. The same is true for a violin, a guitar, even a simple wind chime. Music requires balance. Pitches aligned just right for resonance to emerge. In many ways, the universe is like an instrument tuned with extraordinary care. The fundamental constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the speed of light, the charge of the electron are set with values that seem precisely arranged, to allow the cosmos we know to exist. A small shift in any of these would render the performance silent, or at least unrecognizable. Consider gravity. It is weaker than the other fundamental forces by orders of magnitude, and yet its gentleness is exactly what allows stars and galaxies to form. If gravity were only slightly stronger, stars would burn out too quickly, collapsing before life could emerge. If it were weaker, matter might never have gathered into stars at all, leaving a thin mist instead of brilliant constellations. Our universe holds just enough gravity to shape structure, but not so much that it snuffs it out too soon. It is like the deep bass line in an orchestra, present, grounding, but never overwhelming. Or think about the charge of the electron. If it were only slightly different, atoms would not hold together in stable forms. Chemistry as we know it would collapse, and with it the possibility of complex molecules, planets, or life. In a sense, electrons are like the strings of a violin. Pull them too tightly and the instrument cannot play. Loosen them too much and the sound disappears. Only when they are balanced does music arise. The same applies to the speed of light, the rate at which the universe expands, the masses of fundamental particles, all are set at values that, at least from our perspective, seem astonishingly precise. Too fast an expansion, and matter would scatter without forming stars. Too slow, and the universe would collapse back on itself before galaxies had a chance to shine. The balance is so delicate that many scientists have compared it to a cosmic tuning, as though someone adjusted each string carefully before the orchestra began. Of course, science does not claim that a hand literally tuned these constants. Instead, it wrestles with the mystery. Why do these values allow for harmony at all? One possibility is that we live in one universe among many, and only in some are the notes tuned well enough for life to emerge. Another is that there may be deeper principles still undiscovered that require these values to be what they are. But whatever the explanation, the fact remains that our cosmos feels balanced, like an instrument playing steadily in key. Everyday life offers metaphors for this. Think of baking bread. The yeast, the flour, the temperature of the oven, all must be in balance. Too much yeast and the dough collapses, too little and it fails to rise. Yet when tuned correctly, the loaf emerges warm and fragrant, something new created from simple ingredients. The universe seems to follow the same principle. Too much or too little of its fundamental ingredients, and the recipe fails, but with just the right proportions, galaxies, stars, planets, and eventually consciousness itself emerge. There is also the delicate balance of ecosystems. A pond can thrive with just the right mix of plants, fish, insects, and water flow. Alter the balance and the harmony collapses. Too many nutrients and algae overwhelm the pond. Too few and life dwindles. The cosmos is like a pond on the grandest scale, tuned in ways that allow complexity and stability. What makes this thought especially moving is how fragile it all seems. We live in a universe where stars shine, atoms hold together, water flows, and breath moves in and out of lungs. None of this is guaranteed. None of it would be possible if the constants of nature were even slightly different. And yet, here it is, tuned like a delicate instrument, playing a melody that includes us within it. As you lie here now, perhaps with your body sinking into the calm rhythm of rest, you can imagine yourself as part of this tuning. Your heartbeat is steady, balanced between contraction and release. Your breath is measured, not too fast, not too slow. Even your thoughts drift in a balance between wakefulness and sleep. You are a small version of the universe's larger harmony, carrying within you the same delicate tuning that makes existence possible. And so the thought lingers. The cosmos is not random noise, but carefully balanced music. Whether by necessity, chance, or something deeper, its strings are tightened and loosened in just the right way. If they were not, there would be no stars, no galaxies, no listeners. The piano might exist, but it would play only discord, its keys clashing into silence. Instead, it plays harmony, and you are part of its song. There is a gentle paradox at the heart of fine-tuning. When we marvel at how the constants of nature are adjusted with such precision, it is tempting to imagine that the universe was tuned for us, that the music of existence was written with listeners in mind. Yet there is another perspective, quieter but no less profound. It is called the anthropic principle, and it suggests that perhaps we should not be surprised to find the universe tuned in such a way, because if it were not, we would not be here to notice it. In other words, we're able to observe the symphony only because it happens to play in a key that allows our presence. At first, this can sound almost disappointing, like explaining away a miracle, but sit with it longer and the idea grows more soothing. Imagine walking through a forest and coming upon a clearing where wildflowers bloom in abundance. You might be tempted to say, "What a coincidence that I found this place." Yet the only reason you are standing among those flowers is that you happened to take the path that led there. Countless other paths might have led into thickets or shadows, but those would not have drawn you to stop and wonder. You notice the clearing because it exists, and you are here because it allows your presence. The anthropic principle works in a similar way. Among all the possible ways a universe could be tuned, we find ourselves in one where atoms are stable, stars shine for billions of years, and chemistry allows the delicate complexity of life. If the tuning were different, there would be no galaxies, no planets, no water, no listeners. Silence would reign, and there would be no one to comment on the silence. The very fact that we ask the question, why is the universe tuned this way, is itself evidence that the tuning allows us to ask. This perspective can soften the edges of mystery. It does not resolve the question of why the constants take the values they do, but it reframes the wonder. Instead of demanding an answer, it invites us to accept the gift of existence as it is. Think of a violinist striking a note that resonates perfectly in the hall. We can speculate about why the instrument was made that way, or why the hall has such acoustics. But in the moment, what matters is that the note sings, clear and resonant. The anthropic principle tells us the note sings because otherwise we would not be here to hear it. Everyday life is full of small versions of this principle. Consider breathing. You inhale without thinking, trusting the air to be there. If Earth's atmosphere were thinner, if oxygen levels were lower, you would not be able to take that breath. But you do not wake each morning marveling at the coincidence of oxygen. You breathe because you can, and your awareness arises only in a world where breathing is possible. Or think of water flowing from a tap. If hydrogen and oxygen did not bond in exactly the way they do, water would not exist, and life as we know it would vanish. Yet you drink without questioning the chemistry every time. This is not to diminish the strangeness of fine-tuning. It is, in its way, even more astonishing. The fact that we are here to notice, to reflect, to marvel, means that the universe has arranged itself in a way that allows awareness. That awareness may not explain the music, but it ensures that the music has listeners, and perhaps that is part of the harmony itself. A song without an ear to hear it is still a song, but how much richer it feels when it is received, when it moves a heart. The anthropic principle reminds us that our very presence is a note within the larger score, not by design necessarily, but by the simple fact of resonance. This perspective also opens a gentler way to think about silence. If other universes exist, bubbles with different constants, scores written in alien keys, they may be silent not because they failed, but because they simply play music we cannot hear. In some, stars might never form. In others, matter itself might not hold. Those universes may still exist, vast and real, but without listeners. Silence there does not mean emptiness. It means a different kind of music, one that does not carry our particular tune. As you rest here tonight, consider that you are living inside one of the rare universes where the music resonates clearly enough for awareness to bloom. Your thoughts, your memories, even the act of listening to these words are possible only because the tuning allows it. You're not outside of this harmony, marvelling from a distance. You are inside it, a note sustained within the chord. And perhaps this is the deeper invitation of the anthropic principle, not to reduce wonder but to heighten it. Instead of asking why the universe is tuned this way, we might pause to recognise how extraordinary it is that it plays at all, that the harmony is not silence, that the constants align just so, allowing galaxies and stars and finally, listeners like you. So let the thought drift gently with you into rest. The cosmos sings, and you are here to hear it. That is no accident, no triviality. It is part of the harmony itself, a resonance that includes your awareness, your breath, your quiet presence in this moment. The music plays, and you are listening, and that simple fact is enough to fill the silence with wonder. When you listen to an orchestra, it is natural to wonder whether the music is being guided by a conductor or whether the players are moving together by instinct alone. The motions of bows and fingers might seem too synchronized to be random, yet it is also possible that practice and shared rhythm allow the music to unfold without anyone at the front waving a baton. In much the same way, when we consider the fine-tuning of the universe, we are left with a similar question. Is there a deeper pattern guiding it all, or are we simply witnessing the fortunate harmony of chance? Some scientists and philosophers argue that the constants of nature must be what they are because of deeper laws we've not yet uncovered. In this view, the seeming coincidences are not coincidences at all, but the result of an underlying structure, like the grammar of a language that ensures words fall into place. Imagine reading a poem and marvelling at the way the lines rhyme, only to realise later that the rhyme was built into the rules of the form itself. If reality is hidden patterns, then the harmony we hear may be the inevitable result of rules that extend beyond what we currently know. Others suggest that perhaps there is no deeper necessity, no grand score. The constants may simply be what they are by chance, the outcome of a roll of cosmic dice. In this view, our universe is one among many, and we happen to live in the one where the music plays in tune. Imagine a field of radios, each set to a different frequency. Most emit only static, but a few happen to catch a clear signal. We live beside one of the clear radios, and so we hear the music. There may be countless others humming with noise, but they remain unheard. Between these perspectives lies a spectrum of possibilities. Some imagine that the multiverse itself is the hidden pattern, that the abundance of universes ensures that at least one will be tuned for life. Others hold out hope for a theory of everything, a single unifying principle that explains why the constants must take the values they do. And some rest content with uncertainty, accepting that the universe may be improvised, a jazz performance rather than a symphony, its beauty arising not from strict rules but from spontaneous resonance. Everyday experience helps us approach these abstract choices. Consider baking bread again. Sometimes the loaf rises perfectly, golden and fragrant, and you know it is because you measured each ingredient with care, following a recipe. Other times you may throw ingredients together with less precision, and still the bread emerges unexpectedly delicious. Was it the hidden order of the recipe or the luck of improvisation? Both can produce beauty, and both remind us that outcomes can carry harmony without needing a single explanation. Or think of stargazing on a clear night. You might see a shooting star streak across the sky. Was it chance that you looked up at the right moment, or was there a larger pattern, the Earth in its orbit, the meteor in its path, the geometry of space, ensuring the event? The truth is likely both. Chance within pattern, improvisation within structure. Perhaps the universe itself balances in the same way, with order and randomness interwoven, each sustaining the other. What is soothing in this reflection is that both views, the score already written and the improvisation, still allow for harmony. Whether guided by hidden laws or by chance, the result is the same. a universe where stars shine, atoms bind, and life emerges. The question of why may never be fully resolved, but the fact of resonance remains undeniable. The music plays, and we are here to listen. This thought invites us to humility. We're used to asking why things are as they are, searching for causes and patterns, hoping for certainty. Yet the universe may resist final answers. It may be more like a song that does not reveal its full structure to any single listener. You catch a melody here, a chord there, but the whole remains elusive. The beauty lies not in solving the score completely, but in recognizing that the fragments we hear are already extraordinary. As you rest tonight, perhaps you can picture yourself sitting in a concert hall where the conductor never appears. The orchestra begins anyway, each instrument joining, each phrase unfolding. You do not know whether someone guides it from behind the curtain or whether the players themselves have found a shared rhythm. It does not matter. The music flows, carrying you along, filling the silence with meaning. That is the universe. Guided or not, patterned or improvised, it sustains a harmony vast enough to include you. So let the question soften rather than sharpen. Perhaps the constants of nature are written into a deeper score we have not yet read. Perhaps they are the lucky notes of chance, sounding just right in this particular performance. Either way, the harmony is here, and it is enough. You're living inside the music, your presence a reminder that resonance exists, whether by pattern or by accident. And as the melody continues, it carries you gently forward, not demanding answers, only inviting you to listen. When you sit in a concert hall and the orchestra begins to play, there is often one figure who moves quietly but decisively at the front. The conductor. Their hands rise and fall, a baton flickers gently, and somehow dozens of musicians align, their separate voices blending into one sound. Yet anyone who has seen a small ensemble play without a conductor knows that music can continue even without that guiding figure. Musicians watch one another, follow the rhythm and keep the harmony alive through shared attention. Both arrangements are possible, music guided by a hand and music unfolding through the natural coordination of players. When we turn to the universe, the question arises, does it too have a conductor? Or do the harmonies of stars and atoms, galaxies and light arise on their own, needing no baton at all? The laws of physics can feel like the strokes of such a baton. Gravity bends space and pulls galaxies together. Electromagnetism shapes atoms and carries light across billions of years. The nuclear forces inside stars balance attraction and repulsion, releasing the energy that warms planets and fuels life. These laws act consistently, everywhere we look, as though they are the gestures of an unseen conductor keeping time. When a planet circles a star, when a photon crosses space, when a seed falls from a tree and drifts to the ground, the same rules are at work. It is tempting to imagine that behind these laws stands something, or someone, ensuring their constancy. But there is another way to hear the music. Perhaps no baton is needed. Perhaps the laws of physics are not imposed from outside but are intrinsic to the universe itself, patterns that arise naturally, the way ripples form on water when wind moves across the surface. In this view, the harmony is self-organizing. The orchestra does not need a conductor because the instruments know how to keep time together. Galaxies swirl, particles interact, and light bends not because they are ordered to do so, but because that is simply the nature of their being. This tension between guided order and self-organizing harmony has shaped philosophy and science for centuries. Some thinkers look at the precision of physical laws and see evidence of intention, of a hand guiding the performance. Others look at the same precision and see the beauty of emergent order, the marvel that harmony can arise from simplicity without needing direction. Both perspectives share wonder. Both bow before the music, even if they disagree about the source of its rhythm. Everyday experience offers parallels to make this more tangible. Think of a murmuration of starlings, thousands of birds swooping in intricate patterns across the evening sky. No single bird directs the flight. Instead, each follows simple rules: keep a certain distance, match the speed of neighbours, and the result is a living wave, coordinated and graceful. The pattern seems too deliberate to be unplanned, yet it emerges without any conductor. Or think of a river winding through a valley. It does not need instruction to find its path. Gravity and erosion together create the graceful curves, the way water sings its own song. At the same time, we know the comfort of a conductor's hand. An orchestra without guidance can drift. Tempos may slip, entries may falter. With a conductor, the sound gathers clarity, intention, and coherence. Many people find it easier to imagine the universe this way, as guided, as purposeful, as watched over by something beyond itself. The metaphor of the conductor reassures us that the music will not collapse into noise, that someone is keeping time, ensuring harmony continues. Between these images lies a spectrum of possibility. Perhaps the universe is entirely self-organizing, its harmonies emerging naturally from the mathematics of its laws. Perhaps there is a guiding principle beyond our perception, not a person in the human sense, but a deeper order, a hidden baton-keeping rhythm. Or perhaps the distinction itself is misleading, and the truth is some blend, laws that are self-sustaining yet also part of a larger coherence we cannot yet name. What matters most for us tonight is not deciding the question, but feeling the wonder it evokes. To listen to the universe and wonder if it has a conductor is to acknowledge that its music is extraordinary. It is to recognize that galaxies spinning, atoms vibrating, and life emerging are not random noise, but structured harmony. Whether that harmony is guided or spontaneous, it surrounds us with beauty. As you rest here, perhaps imagine yourself in the concert hall once more. The lights are dim, the air still, the audience silent. The orchestra waits, then the music begins. You cannot see whether the conductor is present or hidden behind the curtain. All you know is the music itself rising and falling, weaving through the air, carrying you with it. Does it matter in that moment whether a baton guides it? The music is enough. The harmony holds. And so the thought drifts gently. The universe plays its symphony, whether or not a conductor waves the baton. Some hear evidence of guiding hands, others hear the marvel of emergent order, but all hear the music, and you, lying here, are part of it. You're not outside the hall, you're seated within it, carried by the same rhythm, part of the same unfolding performance. Whether guided or self-sustained, the harmony continues, steady and vast, inviting you to listen, to rest, to let the music move through you like a tide. Close your eyes for a moment and listen to your own mind. Not the external sounds of the room, but the quieter patterns beneath them, the steady rhythm of your breath, the pulse in your chest, the drift of thoughts rising and fading like soft waves on a shore. This inner life, so familiar and yet so mysterious, may itself be a kind of resonance. Some thinkers have suggested that consciousness is not separate from the universe, but is one of its harmonies, a subtle chord struck within the larger symphony of existence. If the cosmos is music, then our awareness may be one of its quieter instruments, playing from within rather than without. Science approaches consciousness cautiously, with careful experiments and cautious theories, but the experience itself is undeniable. Dreams, memories, perceptions, the feeling of being, these are not abstractions, but the most intimate facts of our existence. And when we look closely at them, they often reveal the same qualities we find in cosmic harmonies. Thoughts rise and fall like melodies, emotions swell like crescendos, then fade back into silence. Perceptions weave together, overlapping and diverging, much like voices in a choir. Consciousness may be less like a machine running calculations and more like an orchestra performing an ever-changing score. Consider dreams, In sleep, your mind creates entire landscapes filled with colour, sound, and sensation, all woven seamlessly together. None of it exists outside your mind, yet while you are dreaming, it feels real, resonant, alive. It's as though your brain is playing a private composition, a fugue that vanishes the moment you wake but leaves behind echoes that linger in memory. Or think of daydreaming, the way your attention drifts, images overlapping with sounds, emotions rising unexpectedly. These too feel like harmonies, subtle, transient, but unmistakably musical in their flow. Even ordinary perception carries this sense of resonance. When you hear a piece of music you love, your body responds. Not only your ears, but your heartbeat, your breathing, even the rhythms of your neurons. When you look at a painting, colours and shapes vibrate together in your mind, forming an impression that is more than the sum of lines and pigments. Awareness is not passive reception, it is participation, resonance between the outer world and your inner symphony. Some philosophers and scientists wonder if this resonance is not accidental, but fundamental. Perhaps consciousness is not merely produced by the brain, but as a basic feature of the universe, emerging wherever conditions allow it, like a note that naturally rings out when an instrument is played. In this view, awareness is one of the universe's ways of knowing itself, a melody played from within the score rather than outside it. Just as particles and stars are part of the cosmic orchestra, so too are the minds that reflect on them, harmonies woven into the music itself. Everyday life offers parallels that help make this idea gentle rather than overwhelming. Think of laughter shared among friends. It begins with a spark in one person, spreads through resonance, and soon the whole room is filled with overlapping joy, each voice rising and falling in sync. Or think of two people walking together who fall naturally into step, their footsteps aligning without effort. Consciousness may be similar, a resonance that arises when matter, energy, and complexity align just right, a rhythm that emerges naturally from the dance of the cosmos. This thought does not solve the mystery of consciousness, but it does soften its edges. Instead of treating awareness as a problem to be explained, we can experience it as part of the harmony. You do not need to know why a violin vibrates to be moved by its song. Likewise, you do not need to know the full mechanism of awareness to feel its resonance within you. The mystery is not an obstacle, but part of the beauty. Speculatively, one can imagine that consciousness itself may be a bridge between universes, a resonance that hints at deeper connections. When you dream of places that never existed, when you imagine futures that have not happened, when you feel awe at the night sky, perhaps you're not only hearing the music of this universe but sensing faint harmonies from beyond. These may not be literal glimpses of other worlds, but they may be ways in which the resonance of mind expands the score, weaving imagination into the cosmic choir. As you lie here, perhaps drifting towards sleep, let yourself feel that resonance. Notice how thoughts rise like notes, how emotions swell like chords, how silence itself carries a kind of music. You're not outside the universe listening to its song. You're one of its instruments, playing from within, your awareness another harmony in the grand composition. And perhaps that is the deeper truth. We're not merely observers of the cosmic symphony, seated in the audience while the music unfolds. We are participants, resonating threads woven into the score. Our consciousness is not separate from the universe, but one of its voices, subtle and transient, yet essential to the fullness of the harmony. So let the thought rest with you. Your mind is music, your awareness a resonance, your dreams a quiet fugue. The universe plays, and you play with it, not as a spectator, but as a note within the chord. Whether awake or asleep, thinking or resting, you're part of the resonance, and the music continues, carrying you gently forward. When you pause to admire a snowflake caught on your sleeve, you're not just looking at frozen water. You're looking at a pattern so delicate and precise that it feels as though it was chosen for beauty as much as for physics. The six-fold symmetry, the branching arms, the way every crystal is unique yet instantly recognizable. These qualities go beyond mere utility. They speak to something we humans cannot help but notice. The presence of patterns that feel meaningful, as though the universe whispers in forms that are not only functional, but elegant. This raises a quiet question. Could beauty, symmetry, or mathematics itself be the hidden conductor of the cosmic symphony? Physics gives us laws, equations, and constants. They describe how things behave, from the fall of an apple to the bending of starlight around a galaxy. Yet behind those descriptions often lies a striking elegance. Equations that govern entirely different phenomena sometimes mirror each other, as though written in variations of the same hand. The shape of a spiral galaxy resembles the curl of a seashell. The branching of trees echoes the splitting of rivers, lightning bolts, even neurons in the brain. The rhythm of a heartbeat shares its fractal cadence with the rhythm of waves on the shore. These parallels remind us that beauty and symmetry are not ornaments on top of reality. They seem to be woven into its fabric. Some scientists suggest this may not be an accident. Perhaps the universe favours patterns that are simple yet profound, elegant yet enduring. Einstein himself once remarked that the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. That is to say, the fact that we can describe the cosmos with mathematics at all is astonishing. Why should numbers and geometry, abstract constructs of the human mind, map so perfectly onto the motions of planets, the vibrations of strings, and the curving of space-time? Unless, of course, mathematics is not just our tool, but the underlying score itself. This idea can feel overwhelming, but everyday life offers small echoes of it. Think of a spider weaving a web. The web is not merely functional, it carries a kind of fragile beauty, the spiral arcs glistening with dew in morning light. Or think of music itself. Notes arranged at random become noise, but when arranged with symmetry and proportion, they become a melody that stirs the heart. The universe too may follow proportions, harmonies that are deeper than physics alone, a hidden conductor not in the form of a hand but in the form of a pattern. Gentle humour can lighten this thought. If the universe is indeed written as a score of infinite length, perhaps we, with our small instruments and limited attention, only ever glimpse the margin notes. Imagine an orchestra playing from a score so vast it stretches across the horizon. You peek at the corner of one page, notice a flourish of melody, and declare, "Ah, I understand the whole piece." Meanwhile, the symphony stretches onward in movements you will never hear. In this way, our theories may be less than the music itself, but still precious fragments of it. The human search for meaning often circles back to these patterns. We are pattern-seeking creatures, finding constellations in scattered stars, faces in clouds, meaning in coincidence. Sometimes our imagination carries us too far, inventing patterns where none exist. Yet other times, the patterns are undeniably real, guiding the shape of snowflakes, the spin of galaxies, and the symmetry of particles. It is not foolish to see meaning in these forms, it is natural, even inevitable. Perhaps it is our way of resonating with the hidden conductor, sensing a rhythm we cannot name but cannot ignore. There is also humility here. If beauty and symmetry are the true conductors, then we are not separate from them. The very architecture of our minds, with its preference for balance, rhythm, and form, may be another echo of the universe's design. When you are moved by music, struck by a painting, or caught breathless by a sunset, you're not merely enjoying art, you're resonating with patterns that the universe itself seems to favour. It is as if your consciousness is tuning to the same key the cosmos has been playing all along. As you lie here, perhaps with your breath settling into its own rhythm, think of yourself as part of this pattern. Your heartbeat marks time like a drum. Your thoughts spiral like galaxies. The structure of your DNA twines like a double helix, repeating motifs that sustain life. You're not outside the score, reading it from a distance. You're written into it, a phrase within a larger composition. Whether the conductor is mathematics, beauty, or something beyond our words, you're already participating in the harmony. And so the thought drifts to rest. Perhaps there is a hidden conductor after all, but not one standing apart, baton in hand. Perhaps the conductor is beauty itself, symmetry itself, the quiet insistence of patterns that repeat across scales. We may never read the full score. We may only glimpse the notes written in the margins. But even those glimpses are enough to remind us that the universe is not chaos. It is a song, infinite in length, rich in variation, guided by patterns too vast to contain but not too subtle to feel. And tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you are carried by that same score, your life one of its notes, your awareness one of its harmonies, your breath a small rhythm in a symphony without end. If you have ever stood inside a cathedral while a choir sang, you may have noticed how the sound seems to move through you rather than simply around you. Voices rise, reverberate against the stone walls, and blend into something greater than any single singer could create. You feel not only like a listener, but like part of the resonance itself, your own body vibrating faintly with the music. This is a fitting image for our place in the cosmos. We're not sitting outside the universe, listening as an audience while it plays its song. We're inside the hall, woven into the very score. Each of us is a note, a phrase, a vibration that adds to the harmony. The idea that every person is part of the music may sound poetic, but it is also literal in many ways. Your body is composed of atoms, each formed in the cores of stars long before Earth existed. Those atoms vibrate in patterns that resonate with light and heat, their movements governed by the same laws that shape galaxies. When you laugh, sing, or speak, those vibrations ripple outward, shifting the air, moving across rooms, echoing into the world. Even when your voice falls silent, the effects of your actions continue. Resonance is carried forward in ways you may never know. Think of laughter shared among friends. One person's chuckle sparks another, and soon the room is filled with overlapping joy, each echo sustaining the others. That moment of resonance does not end when the sound fades. The memory lingers, carried by everyone present, and shapes future conversations, future moods. A note was struck, and it continues to vibrate long after the room grows quiet. Each of us is constantly striking such notes, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in larger ones. We ripple into the world like chords woven into the music of life. Even memories function as resonances. A story told to you years ago may echo in your mind when you least expect it. A kindness shown by a stranger may shape the way you treat others long afterward. These ripples are not accidents. They are the natural resonance of human existence. Like voices in a choir, our lives overlap, harmonize, and sometimes clash, but always contribute to the richness of the whole. Without your note, however brief or soft, the score would not be complete. The metaphor extends further when we consider how actions spread beyond our immediate circle. A smile offered to one person can brighten their day, altering how they speak to others, who in turn carry that resonance outward. The same is true of ideas. A thought shared in a book, a painting, or a conversation may travel across decades, carried like a theme that reappears in later movements of a symphony. You may never know who hears your note or how it echoes, but the music continues regardless. Everyday life shows this clearly. Drop a stone into a pond and ripples spread outward, overlapping with others, creating patterns far larger than the initial splash. Light a candle in a dark room and shadows shift across every corner. Sing a single note in an empty hall, and the walls themselves answer with echoes. In the same way, our lives ripple outward, subtle but real, shaping the resonance of the world. From a cosmic perspective, this is both humbling and awe-inspiring. We are small compared to galaxies, brief compared to the age of the universe, fragile compared to the forces of nature. Yet even so, we are not insignificant. Our very existence is woven into the harmony, our thoughts and actions part of the ongoing score. You're not outside the music, watching from afar. You're one of its notes, your life a vibration that matters precisely because it adds something no other note can replace. There is comfort in knowing this. When you feel alone, as though your voice does not carry, remember that even the quietest note changes the chord. In a symphony, a single triangle strike can shimmer above an entire orchestra. A flute's soft entrance can alter the mood of the whole. Your presence does the same. Without you, the harmony would be different and the music would be less full. As you rest tonight, imagine the echoes of your own life rippling outward. The people you have touched, the places you have moved through, the thoughts you have shared. They're all part of the resonance, carried forward in ways you cannot measure. You're not just a listener in the cosmic hall, you're part of the choir. Your note may be brief, but it is beautiful, and it is essential to the fullness of the song. So let this thought settle with you. You're a note in the cosmic score, resonant and irreplaceable. Your laughter, your breath, your heartbeat, your memories, all of them add to the harmony. Even as you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, the resonance continues, carried forward by those you have touched and by the very atoms within you, still vibrating with the music of the stars. The universe plays and you play with it, part of the same endless chord. There are nights when the universe feels impossibly large, and in that vastness it is easy to feel small, perhaps even alone. You might look at the stars and wonder whether your brief life matters against such immensity, whether your voice can carry at all in a hall so wide. This sense of solitude is deeply human, as old as the first people who gazed upward and tried to find meaning in constellations. Yet, if we shift our perspective, the story changes. What feels like isolation may instead be membership in an ensemble, where each part matters because of how it blends with the others. The universe's music is not a solo, but a chorus, and you're already singing within it. Think of how choirs work. No singer carries the whole piece alone. Instead, voices rise and fall, intertwining, each part adding depth to the others. A soprano line may shimmer above, a bass line may ground the harmony, and altos and tenors weave the texture in between. Take one voice away, and the fullness changes. The beauty of ensemble is not that any single note dominates, but that all together create something greater than the sum of parts. Life, on both the human and cosmic scale, follows the same principle. In everyday experience, ensemble appears in countless forms. A city at night hums with lights, footsteps, and voices, each person carrying their own rhythm, but together creating the pulse of a shared existence. A family meal gathers voices around a table, laughter overlapping with conversation, the clatter of cutlery blending into a domestic symphony. Even the murmurs of strangers in a cafe or the layered sounds of birds at dawn remind us that life is rarely a solo. It is ensemble, always ensemble, even when we forget to notice. Science too reflects this truth. Every atom in your body once belonged to stars that lived and died long before you. You're not separate from the cosmos. You're made of it, a participant in its ongoing cycle. The oxygen you breathe, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all forged in stellar furnaces, all passed down through countless transformations until they resonated together as you. In that sense, your very being is already ensemble, a choir of elements singing together in balance. The loneliness that sometimes presses in is not the full truth. The deeper truth is that you have never been isolated. You're stitched into the ensemble by the fabric of your existence. This ensemble extends beyond matter to meaning. Consider curiosity, the shared human desire to understand. Across cultures and centuries, people have asked the same questions. What is the universe? Where did it begin? Why are we here? Each answer has been partial, each voice distinct, but together they form a conversation that stretches across generations. You are part of that conversation now, simply by wondering. Your curiosity joins a harmony that includes astronomers mapping galaxies, poets writing of stars, and ordinary people looking up on quiet nights, all resonating with the same desire to know. There is something profoundly comforting in this recognition. When you feel like a solitary note, remember that you are surrounded by an ensemble playing alongside you. Even silence can be part of the music. In a symphony, rests are as important as notes, creating the space where meaning emerges. Your quieter moments, your stillness, your pauses are not absence but contribution, shaping the whole just as surely as action or sound. To bring this thought closer, imagine a single lantern in the dark. Alone, its glow is modest, but place it among many lanterns, and together they light an entire path, a festival of brightness. In the same way, your presence, when joined with others, creates a light that no single flame could produce. The ensemble is not a luxury, it is the very form of existence, and this ensemble stretches beyond humanity. We share resonance with the natural world, forests breathing out oxygen for us to inhale, oceans circulating nutrients, bees pollinating flowers that feed us. These are not separate stories, but threads of the same song intertwined across scales. When you walk in the woods or listen to waves at the shore, you're hearing harmonies of which you are already a part. The music does not exclude you, it carries you. As you rest here, you might let go of the image of yourself as isolated, floating in a vast void. Instead, picture yourself as one voice in a choir, one instrument in an orchestra, one lantern in a long line of lights. Your life resonates outward in laughter, kindness, thought, and presence. Others' lives resonate back into yours. Even when you feel alone, the ensemble is still playing, and your note is woven into it. So let the thought linger. You are not separate, not solitary, not a single sound fading into silence. You are part of an ensemble, cosmic and human, woven of atoms, of memories, of shared curiosity and care. The universe's music would not be the same without you. You're not only a note within the score, you're part of the harmony itself, and the ensemble carries you forward, always. When a piece of music ends, the notes do not vanish completely. They linger in the air, resonating softly before fading into silence. And even when the hall grows quiet, the memory of the melody persists, carried in the minds of those who heard it, inspiring them to hum it later or to weave fragments of it into new songs. In the same way, humanity carries forward the melody of the universe, not by replaying it exactly, but by continuing its themes in science, art, and wonder. We are not passive listeners in the cosmic symphony. We're also musicians, adding new variations to the score. Science itself is one of our clearest ways of carrying the melody. Every experiment, every observation is like a careful attempt to pick out a note from the cosmic song and write it down so it can be played again. When Galileo looked through his telescope at Jupiter's moons, he was not creating those harmonies but recognizing them, ensuring that they would be heard by others. When Newton wrote the laws of motion, he was tracing the rhythm of falling apples and orbiting planets, giving language to movements already underway. Each discovery is like a theme passed from one generation to the next, carried forward into new arrangements. But science is not the only way the melody continues. Art too picks up the tune. When a painter captures the swirl of stars in the night sky, or a poet describes the hush of dawn, or a composer writes a piece that mimics the vastness of space, they are not inventing beauty from nothing. They are echoing the universe's patterns, translating them into forms we can feel more directly. Even a simple lullaby sung to a child is part of this process. A reminder that sound, rhythm, and harmony are ways of weaving the cosmos into our most intimate moments. Everyday life also carries the melody forward. A teacher explaining a concept to students, a gardener planting seeds that will feed future meals, a storyteller sharing family history. All of these are notes sustained across time. You may not think of these actions as part of a symphony, but each one ensures that resonance continues, that the music of human presence does not fall silent. Even small acts matter. A word of encouragement, a smile, a gesture of care. These are quieter notes, but they shape the melody nonetheless. There is something profoundly comforting in this perspective. The universe is vast and our lives are brief, but we are not swallowed by silence. We add to the music simply by existing, by thinking, by caring, by imagining. Every laugh, every invention, every question posed by a curious mind adds another line to the score. We're not merely carried along by the symphony, we carry it forward in turn. Consider how echoes work in a canyon. A single shout may return again and again, bouncing off the walls, transformed but recognizable. Human achievements echo in a similar way. The discovery of fire echoes in every light bulb. The first carved flutes echo in every symphony. The curiosity of ancient stargazers echoes in the telescopes orbiting Earth today. We're always living among echoes, but we're also adding our voices to ensure the echoes continue. In everyday moments, you can feel this continuation. A child learns a lullaby and hums it years later to their own child. A phrase of wisdom, once whispered in a crowded market, travels across centuries to find new listeners. A scientific idea, once scribbled in a notebook, eventually powers spacecraft exploring beyond our solar system. These are all ways the melody moves forward, each note sustaining the larger harmony. This reflection carries with it a gentle responsibility. Since we're not only listeners but participants, what kind of melody do we wish to carry forward? Do we add dissonance or harmony? Do we sustain themes of kindness, curiosity, and wonder, or do we let them fade? The answer is not written for us. It is composed in the choices we make, the actions we take, the resonances we leave behind. As you rest now, you can picture yourself holding a small instrument, adding your note to the symphony. It need not be loud, nor complex. Even a soft hum can shape the harmony. You're not responsible for carrying the entire melody alone. That is the work of the ensemble. But your note matters, because without it, the music would not be the same. The melody would lose one of its threads, and the richness would diminish. So let this thought settle. You are part of the music, and you help carry it forward. Through your curiosity, your creativity, your care for others, you extend the resonance of the cosmos. The song does not end when your note fades. It continues in the voices you have touched, the memories you have left, the ideas you have sparked. And even as you drift into sleep, the music goes on, the melody sustained, the symphony unfolding. When the day begins to fade and night settles in, the world takes on the qualities of a lullaby. The hum of traffic softens into the distance, conversations grow quieter, and even the air seems to move more gently, carrying the scent of evening. In these moments, it is easier to imagine that the entire cosmos is leaning toward stillness, as if the vast symphony of galaxies and atoms is shifting into a slower tempo, preparing to cradle us into rest. Tonight, as we near the end of our journey, it is fitting to think of the universe not as a machine grinding endlessly, but as a lullaby, a song that extends across scales too immense to fathom, yet tender enough to soothe the smallest heartbeat. We began with whispers from atoms and strings, vibrations too small to see. We wandered through galaxies, listening to their slow rotations like deep notes held in a long, patient chord. We even imagined entire universes, each with its own theme, each a movement in a grander composition. From quantum whispers to multiversal choirs, the melody has been everywhere, sometimes bright and sharp, sometimes soft and barely audible, but always present. The lullaby of the multiverse is not a single tune, but a layering of countless voices, each playing its part in a harmony too vast to end. Think of how lullabies work in everyday life. A parent's voice does not silence the world around a child. Instead, it offers a steady rhythm, a reassuring pattern that allows the mind to rest within it. The parent may sing the same simple melody night after night, but the meaning grows deeper with repetition. The song says, "You are safe, you are part of something that continues, you can let go now." The universe does something similar. Stars rise and set, seasons turn, atoms vibrate, and light continues its endless journey. The repetition of these patterns is a cosmic lullaby, reminding us that continuity endures even as individual moments fade. Everyday echoes carry this same soothing quality. The sound of rain on the roof, the waves rolling onto the shore, the steady ticking of a clock. Each is a rhythm, a reassurance that time continues and you can release your grip on wakefulness. The multiverse too may have its own lullaby, woven not from raindrops or clocks, but from the endless repetition of patterns across countless realities. If universes are bubbles, then their collisions and expansions create a rhythm. If they are branches, then their endless splitting creates a chorus. If they are cycles, then their repetitions form a chant. Whatever form it takes, the multiverse's music is continuous, steady, unhurried, like a song that never ends but always changes. There is a quiet gratitude in recognizing this. For all its immensity, the cosmos does not rush. Stars burn for billions of years, galaxies drift for eons. Even the quick flashes of supernovae are but brief notes in movements that span unimaginable time. Compared to this scale, our lives may seem like fleeting whispers, yet even whispers contribute to lullabies. A lullaby is not made of crescendos, but of gentle tones, each note carrying weight precisely because of its softness. Your life, too, is a note in this lullaby, small but essential, carried forward in the music of existence. To make this thought more tangible, picture yourself lying under a wide night sky. The stars above are countless, some faint, some bright, each one a note sustained across space. Their light has travelled for thousands or millions of years just to reach your eyes tonight. You are hearing their part in the cosmic lullaby, not with your ears, but with your vision, your awareness. And as you exhale, your own presence joins the song, not as light or gravity perhaps, but as awareness itself, a resonance within the harmony. The lullaby is not only around you, it includes you. There is gentle humour here too, if you wish to hear it. We sometimes take ourselves so seriously, as though we must solve every question, decode every score, master every rhythm. Yet lullabies are not puzzles to be solved. They are meant to be felt, absorbed, surrendered to. Perhaps the universe hums its lullaby not for us to analyse every note, but to remind us that we can rest inside it. The questions can wait. The music continues. You are already carried by the song, whether you understand it or not. As you rest now, you can imagine the multiverse as a choir singing softly at the edge of perception. Some voices are deep and resonant, galaxies turning in silence. Others are high and delicate, quantum particles flickering in and out of possibility. Still others are unfamiliar, universes with different laws, different melodies, blending into the background in ways we cannot recognize. Together they form a lullaby without end, one that surrounds you now, asking nothing of you but rest. So let the thought close gently. The multiverse sings, and you are part of its lullaby. from atoms to galaxies, from whispers of strings to choirs of universes, the music enfolds you, steady and endless. You do not need to hold it all in your mind. You do not need to solve the score. You need only to listen, to let the rhythm carry you, to allow the lullaby of the multiverse to soothe you into rest. Every symphony, no matter how vast, eventually softens. The instruments that once thundered with energy begin to quiet. Strings ease their bow strokes, brass instruments fall silent, and woodwinds let their final notes linger like a sigh. What remains is not absence, but a calm fullness, the sense that everything has been said, and yet something continues beyond words. This is how our journey must end tonight, not with an abrupt conclusion, but with a soft cadence, a gentle return to silence that carries you into sleep. You are a note in this cosmic symphony, not the loudest, not the longest, but no less important for that. Without you, the harmony would be incomplete. The universe's song has carried through atoms and galaxies, through cycles and resonances, through whispers of quantum strings and the imagined choirs of the multiverse. Yet through all of it, one truth remains. The music includes you. The score is not written outside of your life. Your heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts are all part of its unfolding. When you listen to music, you may not hear every instrument distinctly. Some remain in the background, blending with others, supporting without drawing attention. Human lives can feel like that too. Quiet, subtle, often unnoticed by the larger world. Yet in ensemble, those background notes are what give the music its richness. The harmony would be thinner without them. Your life, even in its quieter moments, is no less resonant. You carry themes forward, you shape those around you, and you sustain the larger score simply by being present. Think of how echoes work in an old stone hall. One person sings a note, and even after their voice falls silent, the sound lingers, reflecting from wall to wall, intertwining with the next voice to enter. Our lives are like those echoes. We do not vanish when our own voice is quiet. Our actions, memories, and kindness continue to resonate in others. You're not a fleeting sound lost in noise. You're part of an echo chamber vast enough to hold galaxies. The music of your existence will ripple onward in ways you may never know. There is a soothing humility in realizing that you need not carry the whole symphony yourself. You're not responsible for every note, every theme, every movement. The orchestra is vast, the choir uncountable. You need only carry your note faithfully, add your harmony, and then rest. The music will continue because it is larger than any single part. This truth allows you to release the burden of trying to hold everything together. You're not the conductor, you're not the composer, you're the note, and that is enough. Everyday life offers reminders of this. When you hum a tune absent-mindedly, you're not sustaining the entire melody of human culture, yet your small hum keeps the music alive in your corner of the world. When you light a candle in a dark room, you're not banishing the night, but you're adding to the brightness that makes the darkness softer. When you whisper goodnight to someone you love, you're not silencing the world's noise, but you're creating harmony in that single moment. These are your notes, your contributions woven into the larger score. And now, as you prepare to rest, you can let go of needing to do more. The music continues without your effort, and in sleep, your presence still resonates. Dreams will carry your awareness into quieter harmonies, subtle fugues of memory and imagination. Your body will continue its rhythms, breath flowing, heartbeat steady, cells working in silent unison. Even in rest, you are part of the song. Sleep does not silence your note. It softens it into the lull of the ensemble, a pause that makes the melody richer when it resumes. There is gentle humour in the thought that the universe has been singing for nearly 14 billion years, and yet tonight, It pauses to cradle you in its harmony. Galaxies continue to spin, stars continue to burn, black holes continue their deep bass tones, but within all of that immensity, there is space for your rest. The cosmos does not need you to stay awake and keep time. It invites you to close your eyes and let the music carry you. So, sleep now, little note in the symphony. You are part of something greater than you can see, a harmony that began long before you and will continue long after. Your presence enriches it. Your resonance carries forward. The universe sings on, and tonight it sings you into rest. As the final words drift away, feel yourself carried not by thoughts but by rhythm, not by questions but by harmony. You're safe within the music. You're part of the lullaby. The orchestra plays on, steady and infinite, while you close your eyes and let go. Sleep peacefully, knowing that the song does not end. It continues, and you are within it, always.